What's up, everybody? Welcome to the show today. Welcome to Jump Street Podcast. What's up, Billy?
What's up? Welcome to our special D.E.I. show. This is our show about diversity, equity, inclusion regarding the skate community. And I'm excited to talk about it. It's a topic we got to talk about. And I got to start it with our partner, Rollerblade. I got to shout out Rollerblade. They're our partner in this. And they started off with a mission statement that I am here to read. I got to be honest, I'm a little nervous to read online live, but this is a great statement from Rollerblade, so hopefully I can read this properly.
It's like being called up to the front of your class to read your homework in front of everybody.
Right.
You got this, Billy. You got this. We got it together. Let's go.
Okay. The past year has been insane on Earth. So many bad things happening all at once were enough to melt your brain. But in any challenging situation, there are sometimes bright spots that emerge. For one thing, the challenges of the pandemic created a renewed interest in our sport and our brand. Getting outside and blading was one way many people found to cope with the darkness all around them. Rollerblade, and we assume all the other brands, are humbled and grateful to be a part of that. During this same crazy year, another challenge and opportunity emerged. A growing awareness of racial injustice and the challenges facing marginalized peoples. The awareness was always there, of course, within those groups, but the awareness finally started reaching and impacting people of privilege and of power. An awareness that violence, oppression, and a lack of opportunity are often the end result of a lack of inclusion, diversity, and equity throughout the power structures of society. An awareness that's been long overdue. So what's next? What can we do with this growing awareness? Now, at this point, if you've never felt marginalized, you may be asking, why the hell are we talking about this on a podcast about blading? Why is Rollerblade as a company asking us as an industry to have this difficult conversation? As several people have already said to us, we should just shut up and make skates. However, if you are a person who has felt and experienced the pain of being marginalized based on the color of your skin, your gender identity, or other innate reality, you may be thinking, it's about effing time the inline industry started to have these discussions. One big reason that it's important for us as a community to have this conversation is because for much of the past 20 years, anyone who lives and breathes blading, especially in the street and aggressive community, has felt at least some small amount of marginalization, solely because you have blades on your feet. Now, before someone freaks out, in no way is being on blades in a skate park full of skateboarders the same thing as being truly marginalized. It isn't the same thing as being killed for driving while black, or the same as being a transgender person leaving a bar and seeing three burly guys following you down an alley. There's no parallel there. Blading is a choice. You can leave your skates at home. You can choose to avoid that conflict at the skate park or favorited kink rail. In contrast, you can't ever decide to not be the color of your skin or whatever your identity is that can often create an undeserved threat around you. But even if it isn't the same thing, being in the blading community does at least give all of us a unique opportunity to connect. It gives all of us the smallest taste of that feeling of being other. Even if you are right-handed, hetero white guy with great hair, you probably have had a taste of what it feels like to be unfairly judged, sometimes hassled, sometimes beat on, and occasionally, sadly, killed just for having blades on your feet. So as a group, we should multiply them by 1,000 and start to get a sense of what it's like to walk in a world that sees you as other due to the color of your skin or your gender identity. So in the end, if there was ever a community of people of all colors and types that should be able to come together and move the world forward in the area of inclusion and diversity and equity, it's the blading community. We are an incredibly diverse community where even the most privileged archetype groups should be able to relate to the feeling of being other at some point. There should be enough mutual respect in this community to empower us to have these hard conversations, to create true unity by embracing our differences rather than pretending there aren't any and thinking that's good enough. Rollerblade proposed this forum today not to fix anything, but to begin something, to bring a small group together from a variety of viewpoints within the blading community, to have the audience send in questions, thoughts, and concerns, to start to express and explore the pain and issues that may exist in our community and our industry with a goal to find a path forward, to have ongoing conversations that lead to actions, to investments, and eventually to progress along a path to a more inclusive, diverse, and equitable industry. And if we can achieve that, then our industry and our community can be an example of the larger world around us, that there are ways to come together and do some important, long overdue things in this world. As Martin Luther King so eloquently said, never, never be afraid to do what's right, especially if the well-being of a person is at stake. Society's punishments are small compared to the wounds we inflict on our soul when we look the other way. So I want to give a huge shout out to our partner Rollerblade in this, because that was very eloquently put. And
good job reading
I'm looking
it, by
forward
the way,
to.
too.
Thanks.
You did great.
I didn't want to take the focus of the words onto my, but thanks. But yeah, it was great words from Rollerblade. I'm really looking forward to having this conversation. I want to stress first and foremost, before we have this conversation, we're going to be talking about we're going to have some challenging conversations, some sensitive topics, and our guests and us as hosts wanted to assure everyone, as well as our guests and people watching, that this is a safe space. We're not out here to hurt anybody. We're just here to discuss, see other perspectives, and really learn some stuff. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our guests, Kennan Scott, Melissa Brown, and Jesus Salgado Medina.
Let me cue up the guest intro courtesy of Butter TV. Let's get everybody in here. Hey, there we go.
That feels good. Nice job, Bills.
See,
Thanks.
we got a special group of people. You needed
that
the
was
applause
great.
for this.
Thanks. I'm super excited to have you guys on and have this conversation. Once again, I want to thank Rollerblade for affording us the opportunity to have this conversation. I know we haven't done this before where we've had more than one guest on, so I'm going to kind of introduce each person so we all don't speak at once. But if Kennan, you wouldn't mind introducing yourself and little intro, who you are, backstory, history of skating, personal background, and please.
For sure. Thank you. Kennan Scott, originally from Brooklyn, one of the older bladers. I'm 42. Next year will mark my 30th year on skates. I'm so excited for that. And so, yeah, I've been skating since 92, since before it had trick names, when we were just bombing hills in the hood or in the urban area. Always got to make sure I keep it tight with my language. I then went to college where I skated some more, met up with really cool people like Hakeem Jamo, and shout outs to Brian Lewis. They introduced me to a young upcoming upstart named Billy O'Neill, who was like 13. At the time, my friend Dwayne and I were trying to figure out a way for us to create a more real, and I mean that in the Dave Chappelle way, like, let's keep it real. We were trying to make a more real clothing company in rollerblading. And so we started a brand called Monks in 2000. Fortunate enough to do that for 6 years, have an incredible team that everyone thought was not nearly as good as it should be. But our team included Brandon Smith, Omar Weissong, Victor Arias, Ben Schwab, and this guy, Billy O'Neill. So I think we did pretty good. Had a really amazing time running a brand, but learned really quickly that clothing is a rough margin for making yourself a career and a life out of. Went back into engineering, which is what I have a bachelor's degree in, and took some time to start a family. So then, you get into life stuff. Got married. I have 2 wonderful boys. One is 6, about to be 6 next week. One is 11. And, settled into that dad life while also maintaining the blading. I never stopped skating. I think I took 7 months off. That's the longest I've taken off without an injury. And Fish knows, I called him like days after that whole that whole car incident where I was like, dude, are you dead? So I haven't taken breaks off. unless you got broke like that, you didn't, whatever. Proud to represent JSF for the last decade. In 2017, I had a crazy accident on the soul grind where I was just doing a regular soul on the A box. I stuck at the flat of it and went shooting back to the back of my head with no helmet on, cracked my skull in 4 places, lost gray matter in my frontal lobe, which is where you handle emotion and organization. Couldn't stand on my 2 feet for 2 weeks. Learned how to rebalance, learned how to see the world again, and started a channel called Blading on the Brain to talk about what people don't often talk about, which is mental health awareness, and the fact that like we play Russian roulette every day with our bodies when we do the sport we love. So there is something to being safe about it. I don't chastise nobody for not wearing a helmet, but I do preach the gospel of being safe. And that's what I do on Blading on the Brain now. And that's how I try to give back to a community that's given me so much over 30 years.
Kennan Scott, ladies and gentlemen. Kennan, thank you for letting us know about yourself, giving us your background, opening up to us. Keeping it moving, we have Melissa Brown as well. Melissa, would you like to tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. Hey, everyone. Melissa Brown. I go by she, her, known as Melly Blady on Instagram. And I've been skating on and off since like 2000, 2001. I'm currently residing in Arizona, and I did grow up here as well. So I had some really cool skaters growing up skating here in Arizona, like back in those Dustin Latimer days and the French brother days. Yeah, I had like a really bad injury back in like 2009, and I quit skating for like 5 years. But I did play some roller derby out in Oregon, just recreationally. And ever since then, I started skating, rollerblading again. And after getting back into rollerblading, I started traveling and moving around all over the States and living in other parts of the world as well. And in 2017, I founded Roller United. And that's pretty much just like a fun thing I do to help hype up the women's scene in rollerblading. But we're inclusive with skateboarding, scooter, BMX or bike, and roller skaters as well. So I just like hosting these events and giving opportunity for women to just have a nice session and do a lot of like go have fun and skate with other women. And it's all for nonprofit work. So we work with a lot of charities and nonprofits as well. And I'm not an actual business, but I do have a legal fiscal sponsorship with Drop in Action Sports Complex out of Boca Raton, Florida. So any work we do is all nonprofit, and we also will help benefit Drop In as well.
Very cool. That's awesome. I didn't know you did all that.
I didn't know you were a roller derby girl.
Yeah, three years.
Damn, that's sick to hear. Yeah. Well, thank you, Melissa. Jesus.
Thank you for letting me notice that I dropped the ball on my pronouns. He, him as well. Thank you.
Perfect. Jesus,
all right, hello, everyone.
You're up next.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jesus Salgado Medina. I go by he, him. I'm a 36-year-old second-generation New Yorican, which means that my grandparents moved from Puerto Rico to New York, then had my parents, who later on had me. I'm also a husband. I'm currently a student working towards my bachelor's degree, doing that online. Aside from that, I've been rollerblading for 25 years of my life, and it's been a very significant part of my life. I have a very small family. So rollerblading helped make up for like the lack of family that I do have. And within those 25 years, I've been a beginner. I've been a recreational skater. I've been an aggressive skater. I've been a competitor. I've been an event organizer, and I've been an inline skate coach. And most recently, I've been trying to figure out what I could do to contribute to the sport to extend its longevity. Meaning, I would like to see more young people taking part in like aggressive skating, or any sort of skating, and just having a good time on their skates, whoever they are.
Very cool. Everyone, I just want to say thank you so much for joining us in this conversation. I know you guys each have your own story, your own perspective on a lot of these issues we're about to go through. But a lot of people are wondering, was touched upon in the rollerblade mission statement, why? What's the importance of this conversation? Why not just shut up and sell skates versus using your voice and power? And how does the diversity, equity, and inclusion affect our personal lives? Why would we have this conversation? Who wants to take it off?
I
Anybody?
mean, I'm just gonna, yeah, why not for the moment? But like, this is just for the segue for the moment. But like, I think why not? Why are we not setting the bar? Pardon me, get emotional early. But why are we not setting the bar as an exemplar for a community of inclusivity? If we preach it and we say that this is the best sport, this is the most open community, this is the most diverse and accepting community, then let's actually be the example for everyone else. We can do that. So, I mean, why not have these conversations? That's my first. But I know we have an order, so I'm going to go back to that.
No, I think these conversations, like, why have this is because they need to happen. I mean, people and brands and skaters will look at this as being part of a solution in creating a stronger community on and off the skates. And, going back to Kennan being an advocate in mental health, I mean, we've all been affected by, unfortunately, skate friends who have committed suicide. And there's so many groups of people who are marginalized, BIPOC, LGBTQ+, females, youth, and underserved communities. And these groups are not represented well, and nor are they given the equal opportunity.
Well, I think the conversation needs to be had because, like, growing up, I was never like really good at. Well, first of all, I'm Puerto Rican, but I grew up in like El Barrio, like right in the middle of New York's hood, poorest neighborhood, the projects, and there was not many people who look like I do. Like, there's Puerto Ricans that look different than I do, and then the rest of the community look different than I do. So I was like quite often like judged as being like, I guess, white, which was one, like, even though I wasn't, but it seemed like there was an attitude towards white people that I had to like deal with because I look white, and like it affected me in many ways. It felt like I was easily targeted whenever I wasn't good at something to be like made fun of, made the joke out of. You know what I mean? So because of those hard times, I started looking for like like a solitary activity or some way to express myself on my own. And at first, I found unicycling, which was awesome. I got really good at it. I was working for the Big Apple Circus for like a few years, starting
I
at
didn't know
12
that.
years old. Yeah. And then that's where I met a couple of rollerbladers. I don't know if you guys remember them, like Gio Garcia and Joey Hines and Eric, of course. And during that same time, I was transitioning to like the reason why I didn't continue unicycling because not too many people was doing that, and every time I go back home, I wasn't able to share that experience with anyone. And I guess that's what I was trying to do, trying to look for an opportunity to share an experience with people. And with basketball, it didn't work for me because I sucked at it. I was terrible, and then I would be easily made fun of. So then I found rollerblading through Eric and these other people, and then I was able to make that transition from doing like unicycling on my own and making it a challenge for myself to like channeling that energy towards like inline skating, which I felt like was a great opportunity of like self expression. You know what I mean? Like all of that time when I wasn't recognized for the things that I thought that I was good at, I felt like to myself that was a time when like through executing something that was challenging for myself, I feel accomplished at the end of it. You know what I mean? So what I mean to say
Yeah.
is like rollerblading like provided an atmosphere where I didn't feel like marginalized. Like I didn't feel like prejudged just because of the way I looked. I felt welcome. But then I did come into the community with a little bit of a chip on my shoulder that was extended from the neighborhood I grew up in. You know what I mean? So probably like quite often when people see me, they'd be like, Jesus, you was an a-hole when you was a kid. You used to always have a smart mouth on you. And I recognize that. And like, I actually wish I wasn't like that. But it is what it is because of how I came up and where I grew up. But I found rollerblading to like, it helped me get away from the neighborhood and feeling like oppressed by, just being there itself. Another situation, well, actually, I'll get into that one later. But I think that rollerblading, like now, sometimes I see that people are like judging of other people because they're rolling on a grind or because of this, that, and the third. And it's like if you start making people feel bad about the way they want to enjoy themselves on blades, then they're not going to buy them anymore. And if they're not going to buy them anymore, then like how does the industry continue to expand? It doesn't. So I think we should be welcoming, and I think rollerblading should be a place where people feel as if they can express themselves, be themselves, and not be judged. You know what I mean? And like I think now we're learning and trying to figure out how to make that happen.
Yeah, man.
Nice.
I think we have. Go ahead, Bills.
No, I was going to say, nice. I like how you tied that all in,
Yeah.
all the way around back to it. But that was good. Go on, Kennan.
I was going to say that we all have a unique, while Mel's getting her charger set up and getting back in the convo, there's a bunch of us from New York in this call right now.
Yeah.
And we have a unique perspective on the world being in such a diverse, naturally diverse landscape. So like I came into the scene because of a bunch of, albeit lack of better ways to say it, white guys who skated in Park Slope. But these are some of my like best friends, homies I got tatted on my body now that passed away because they were accepting of someone who came in with no background, who just happened to see a Royale and was like, oh, I'm gonna come back. Y'all always here? I'm not even gonna bring my skates for like the first 3 weeks, and I'm gonna just come back every week and see what y'all are doing. For them being somebody who was like in the scene, in the crew, repping the crew, and all those things. And so, I came into it having to learn about Goldfinger and 5'11" and you know what I'm saying? Like
311.
You talking about 311?
5'11", yeah, 5'11"
511 of the Levi's.
Oh, the Levi's.
I know those. Like
what are any of these even numbers? Like, what are these groups? What is this music? What is this culture? What are these people? What is it all about? I always say if Dave Payne didn't put I'd Be Blowing in VG, I probably wouldn't be blading, because that was the first song that I was like, oh, I can still remember the water flowing, the leaves, and Robert Leovanos doing that long Royale, because that was what clicked for me. Was like, oh, look, somebody understands something that I like. It's not just these metal bands and like things I don't understand, these trick names and squats and poses, but like there's some daylight in there, so I'll stick around. So why DEI? Because like you said, like if we don't have something for people to catch, the sport will fade. And I'm gonna turn it back to you, Mel, because this was your stage for a minute.
Yeah, sorry about that.
It's all right. You're back. We're good.
I'm actually like not that great with tech, and I work for a tech company.
We won't tell anybody that of your job.
I'm the same. Guilty. I'm not that. Yeah.
But I feel like there was a lot of everyone had a great statement right there. I feel like there was a lot of things that we could have like dug really deep into right there that we're gonna get to later on in the episode.
Well, what I was thinking quick, because like Kennan was saying, I think we have a unique experience being from New York in such a diverse area, and I don't think that's the common experience that many share. And even though there are the pitfalls in New York, in and of itself within like the small communities, but what was it like Melissa, for example? I'm not even sure where you grew up, but what was your experience like getting down with like the groups, or being maybe on the outside of some other groups? What was your experience like?
Well, let's see. Well, how old was I? 14 or 15 when I started skating here in Arizona. And I remember I would always skate by myself. Now, both of my brothers, they used to skateboard, and that's probably how I really got into rollerblading. But I remember skating by myself forever. Like my dad would drop me off at the skate park and I would just be alone. And it wasn't until I was probably able to do some grinds, the local guys started like talking to me, because it's almost like I had to be good enough at some point for them to acknowledge me as a skater doing the sport. Um, but I will say, like, that was odd, but I didn't care. I was quite independent. But it was after they started like talking to me and hanging out, like the support out here was incredible. Like I love the local guys I grew up skating with, and I was pretty much the only female skater here, and we did have two other girls skate, but they didn't skate as often as I did. So my crew was just me alone with all the guys, and it was awesome. They pushed me so hard in a way, to skate like them in a way. But after I started competing, I remember I went to a contest in Torrance and I had messed up my ankle. And then I think it was the PlayStation hookup tour series. And I went to the Vans at Orange Block and I placed like fourth amongst 22 guys. And that's when I got some prize to go to Woodward West for Girls Rule Week, or maybe it was just Woodward West, but at that point they were doing Girls Rule Week, and that was the first time I ever skated with 20 girls. Like the Woodward West weeks were incredible. Like there were so many skateboarder girls and rollerblader girls, and after that, that changed my life. Like having to be able to skate with women was so different than anything else I had in my life. So my dog is going crazy.
My dog is harassing me right now.
Everyone got their puppies out. But Melissa, props to you for sticking around for all that, because considering that you skated by yourself for so long, and then however many years or whatever that might have been before you went to Woodward to actually skate with other females, you stuck around that entire time. That's huge, because I feel like nowadays everyone is a lot more accepting nowadays than they were, well, in that way, in that aspect, than they were, back then. I feel like every time I go to a skate park now, generally people, if I see somebody who looks like they just started skating or don't really know what they're doing, like I'm happy to talk to them and introduce myself. I know other people I skate with as well are the same way too, and a lot more welcoming to newer faces to the sport. So
yeah, it's like we get to be now as we're older, like the people who can change that. Like no one really talked to me, but if I see especially another woman at the park, I'm gonna be like, hey, what's up, like nice to meet you, and get that conversation started with them, because it is quite intimidating for I mean, it was for me. I can't speak for every woman, but for me to be the only female at a skate park, and it still is sometimes, because especially being older, not a kid anymore, but you constantly have these eyes on you, and you.
That's real. That's real.
Yeah, go on, Jesus. Sorry,
Actually,
we're still trying to navigate this
Kennan.
5 people.
That was
Okay,
Kennan
so-
trying to go over you. I didn't say
Thank you
anything.
for sharing. Yeah, being vulnerable in this space, I think, is where we're going to be able to make headway and expose the reasons why this conversation is important. And so I thank you, Mel, for just like setting it off, like literally.
Thank you.
I want to share one thing. There's one thing I noticed recently. Like, cause me, like, whenever I see a rollerblader, personally, I get excited. I like to try to nurture it in any way I can. And just recently, I noticed in my neighborhood where I live, there's someone who does skate, and I noticed through like a social media platform, and I was like, oh wow, that looks like you are skating right down the block from where I live. I have a P rail too. I think maybe one day we could like link up and skate. And then like I noticed that like he responded like in a real cool way as if he would, but then there was like a bit of hesitance. And what I think I'm learning from this experience is that maybe some people prefer to just do their own thing, So I mean, I'm gonna give him. I'm gonna reach out again and see if we can blade and if we can make it happen, or maybe he has to just get comfortable. I guess I was
Maybe
just
it's,
trying to learn how to like leave him his own space to decide if he wants to come rollerblade with me since we live down the block from each other.
yeah. I mean, maybe he's got his own insecurities or personal fears. You know, maybe looked on your page and saw you ripping or something. Who knows? And he's like, oh, I don't know.
Intimidated.
But that's another thing. You know, it's I'm not sure if it's worse now or then, but I'm hoping it's better now. I think so. But I remember then even like it was very cliquey and hard to like get into like some of like the better crews are hard to, which is why I think we were kind of pushing so hard so we could be accepted into some, but yeah, I think that aspect is important, like allowing people to feel like comfortable in the space, because it's ultimately, it's not like Team Pup and Sud super competitive. This is meant for fun, and if you want to be competitive, that should be an option. But so yeah, that's my 2 cents there.
I think what it brings up for me is how we make sure that we reach out to all the different communities that we see out there trying to get engaged, right? I think it's like just the other day I was at Milpitas Skate Park and this sister came up on quads and they were beautiful. I started talking to her about her quads and like not knowing her at all, but just talking to her about her skates. And then we get into discussion and I find out that she's the ex of one of my besties and I didn't even know. Right. And I'm like, oh, thank God I approached you. It's like very open and exploratory manner to be like, what's this all about? What do you tell me about your case? Tell me about, oh, that's crazy, right? As opposed to like standoffish. And like, I think that we hit a phase of that when the money dried up. I talk about times in rollerblade, right? 2000, 2004, we had some money. Injection of actual like sponsorship.
Sorry, my dog.
You can mute temporarily, Jesus.
2004, the money dried up, and we started to have like that clicky sensation come back again. Right? I remember in New York back in the day, we were the Park Slope skate cult for a reason, so that we could show up at the banks and be like, "Who won a battle?" Like that was just how it went down. Like that was New York City. Like I grew up.
Yeah, totally.
Aggressive, competitive. You showed up to hit 13 stair with your best stuff. Like that was what it was. Sure. Then we kind of got open and we got real loose and flexible and appreciative of different styles. Hip hop came in and had a strong influence for a while, right? And then we went back to skinny jeans. We did the thing, pants, right, with a Z. We did all that, but then we hit a point where it was like, you can't big wheel. I'm not gonna have nobody big wheeling on my blades, stuff like that, and that starts to ostracize people out. And I think we're now. Another reason for why have these conversations at this moment is because we are now in a cultural space in the world where we have to get back to basics and to building community, because we have all drifted extremely far apart. And we know that. We've seen it in every arena, right? We are watching someone get 3 guilty verdicts while watching someone else in the same state, same town almost get killed, right? Black people are suffering on 2 sides at one moment. But we know how far we've drifted, but this is the time to come back together. So this is the time where actions are the move. Supporting women and female identifying, non-binary, right? Supporting all of our skaters. Supporting quads, supporting big wheels. Like if you see somebody do something cool in big wheels, you should definitely follow that person. You should like that image, that reel, or whatever it is, and go get yourself a pair of big wheels. Like, why not? Like, what is keeping us in this small bubble other than ourselves? And so we need to be open right now as a world. And that's why I keep saying, like, rollerblading, if I could come in and learn to like 311, I got it right now, finally, right? Damn, like rollerblading, everything. Like, I was at that moment, I was listening strictly to Wu-Tang and learning about how to be in the nation. Like I was about as leftist black as you could be in that moment. I was learning about the 5%. I was doing the knowledge, doing the math. Like I was in it. And I met a bunch of white dudes who listened to Goldfinger. Shout outs to Sam Hindy, rest in peace forever. And them fools were just like, okay, come on, try this Royale. And that's all it took. So we need to recreate that, because that's what's going to move our entire like collective humanity forward. It's actions. Like I remember being in those powwow competitions and having the backing of Bernal Heights Collective to run women's comps and fly China in to just straight have a battle with Fallon, like, because that's what I wanted to see. Like, you know what I mean? Like right now, I throw it out there all the time. Like, China, if you're listening, will you drop a VOD? Please heal up, drop a VOD, because I will drop you cash right now. I need it. I want it. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that are just like me, and are like, how do you true spin negative X grind? Like, what the heck does that even mean? I can't do it.
She's ridiculously good.
I know.
But
Kennan.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Billy.
No, I was
Kennan,
going to say that's a great point.
To add on to your point about the community being open, just real quick, like we all see everything in the world, how everyone is identifying, and it's different from when we were younger growing up. But like I take it in a super awesome, new, positive way. Like, oh, whatever, like the world's changing. That's awesome. But yes, a lot of people, we are ignorant to, gender identity and everything like that. But I think if we can push and continue being a very open community and just accepting it and just like getting out there and accepting everyone to go skate, like that is positive change. That is action. Just having people be more kind and open and supporting whatever sport you want to do. And so I think you're spot on with that. Like we need to be this extremely open community, and people aren't going to be perfect, but I think if we just try to understand and accept people for who they are, that's going to really drive a community and make rollerblading or other sports feel like everyone can belong as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I'd like to add to that if possible.
Go ahead, Jesus.
So, recently in New York, there's been like some Thursday night meetups, and they've been really diverse, which has been cool. And what I've been noticing from that is that there's been like people from many different disciplines coming. Like there's been people that ice skate that took a liking to inline skating, and now they're going to these like meetups on Thursday, and now getting even further exposed to the aggressive aspect and taking a liking to all of it, to whatever level they can participate in it. And I've been noticing these people like investing, buying an aggressive pair or buying like some recreational pairs. And that's cool. And there's also like an inclusion with the quad skaters, like as mentioned before. And who's really leading the way with that, I gotta say, and I'm not really trying to name drop tonight at all, but Montre, like I went to that OSO event that he put together most recently, and it was awesome. He really gave like women or ladies an opportunity to have their own day to skate and do their thing on whichever kind of skates they chose to utilize. And I saw some awesome stuff. There was actually a girl with quads who won the event, and she was flipping around and doing some awesome stuff. So I like that merging that's going on. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, we are all skaters. We just have somewhat slightly different disciplines, but we could all enjoy and appreciate each other's disciplines. Like I have my big wheels, 125s that I like to travel all around the city with, because some days I just want to get up and go do 10 miles. And then for the most part, I have my aggressive skates where I like to go and get dirty. You know what I mean? And it's cool. You should be able to like have whatever you want and not be worried that if you show up a certain kind of way that you're not going to be welcome to the circle. You know what I mean? Because the more we welcome people to the circle, the bigger our overall circle is going to get, which I think is the goal ultimately, or at least mine.
Honestly, those are all really great points, and I think that last point is a perfect way to segue into our next topic, which is why is DEI a positive step for brands like Rollerblade? And
I know we're losing Billy. Billy, you there?
Like you were saying, the Thursday night
Oh no,
skate.
Billy, we're losing you.
people being inclusive and accepting. Hello?
You kind
Well,
of.
am I back?
You're back. You're
Am I
back.
back?
I think you're
Sorry.
back. But
I'm sorry. We haven't made it yet at Jump Street. I'm still working on it. But I think that's oh, I hope I'm not too frozen up.
No, you're good.
I think that's okay. I think that's a good like you were saying, the Thursday night skates. It was a very diverse group bringing everyone together, and that being generally better for skating as a whole. So why is DEI a positive step for brands like rollerblade and the accessibility for people different socioeconomic backgrounds and things like that? Do you want to take this one off, Melissa?
Yeah, I can start. So first, like, shout out to rollerblade. This is an opportunity that they're giving us, and we are right now, the guests of a very diverse group of skaters, and the ability to talk about our experiences. I think that's just super cool with what rollerblade is really trying to lead in the forefront. And it is necessary to address the issues of the presence or lack of BIPOC, LGBT, underserved, and the inequities in inline skate communities. But I think this is a super positive thing for rollerblade to start doing this, because right now, I feel like people really want to be represented, and the best thing to do is like provide role models for that, and for younger people or for other smaller groups within skating to see like their people doing something within the industry, or having some sort of spotlight or something like that. And rollerblade bringing this conversation into the spotlight already shows this genuine initiative by a large brand to create change and give more opportunity. And I think it's going to really drive this momentum to take action in DEI efforts and be part of the community instead of just making skates. So kudos on that, and you guys as well with Jump Street. But I think with change is probably one of the most exciting things. With change, you get new ideas, new partnerships, new opportunities, and be able to open your doors to different opinions and ideas. And that, I think, is one of the, that's so positive for brands if they want to take part of that and give people that opportunity and connect this community and make it larger than it is. And on the business aspect of it, like, the more people you can reach, then of course the more your brand will get out there. And if you're really into your sales and all that, like, it's just going to naturally happen. But you do have to reach out to those communities. That means to underserved, poor communities. We got to come up with some outreach programs or work with individuals who already grassroot these programs. I know there's a couple grassroots in New York. I know there's a couple in California. And I think one of the nicest, easiest ways to help truly create opportunity in equity is to utilize the people who already do something and work with them, or help partner with them, and be able to reach out to everyone as best as we can. So, I would love to do some work here in Arizona now that I'm going to be staying here for a while. So we'll see what happens.
That's awesome.
To your point, as you were saying, we were talking about before, like in these really tough socioeconomic areas, there actually tend to be a lot of skate parks around. And so there are these areas and spaces where you could actually utilize the neighborhoods and engage perhaps some people who wouldn't have the opportunity without someone reaching out or making an event.
There's a roller skater, L7, who has been touring around America and going to reservations, and really being connected with indigenous communities. And that is awesome. It's because she sees that that is a gap with that the group, the marginalized indigenous groups, and she's one of those bridges trying to bridge the gap with roller skating and people of her kind. And that's something we should take and follow that kind of lead. And if you can do it as an individual, why not have a big brand back you?
Yeah, I was gonna say there's a shift of power that has to happen, or at least a redistribution of power that says, yes, being able to lace 360 topsoul, 270 alley fish, or something crazy is like what sells skates. But there also has to be a level of being in the community, being able to provide access and lessons and engagement to people to broaden the pool of those engaged. So I think about here in Oakland, we have Town Park. We have Town Park because of K Dub, right? Shout out to K Dub, who's a skateboarder who initially just like commandeered the parking lot in Defemery Park, like just started putting up skate obstacles, and then we started coming, and then slowly but surely it got permitted, and then slowly but surely he got funding from Tony Hawk to redesign it to make it a bigger, better skate park, where when you go to Town Park, it is those who live in that area predominantly skating there at 7 in the morning. It's like Be Free when he lived in West Oakland, and a bunch of dudes who live in West Oakland skating there. And then you have kids. So like we would throw the Oakland Blade Jam there, and we would have kids come, and we would be able, I think what we normally did was what I think a lot of brands do, similar to what you guys did for Jump Street. You just have people, if you got like 2 or 3 of these shells sitting in your garage, bring them out. Let's make some setups. Let's get some kids in some skates. We'll walk them through. I think we had that time. I think one time that it really really popped off. We had backing from Power Slide. We had shout outs to Blading with Chef's Knives. Obi came up and he brought a bunch of skates. We grassrootsed a bunch of skates, and we just had kids try on skates all day. And people were there to hold their hands and walk them through it and just engage. And it's to Austin's point, then you get to see the bridge, right? It's not that I'm not as good as you, Jesus, but it's that I'm not as good as you yet. And you're gonna be there to show me. And check it out. You live down the street from me, so I'm gonna come by and watch a little bit for a couple days. But it's those grassroots organizations or peoples, or maybe it's an alliance with the Skate IA, right? You have people who are certified and you back them to do the work in their community, because you know that 100 pairs of skates that you're going to give them to like let people use for the next 12 months is going to grant you 100 plus pairs of skates sold. And that's just like, that has to become a new shift in power. So why is DEI an important step? Because you can see brands like Rollerblade stepping into the urban areas and providing support for the skaters that are there trying to build a community, thus create a sustainable sport. We are stewards of a dying sport at all times, I feel like. And
Can I add to what you? Sorry.
Get in there all the time.
I want to build with you on what we're talking about right now. I'm really feeling what you're laying down. I'm picking up what you're putting down, man. So this is what's going on in on my behalf. So most recently, a bunch of friends and myself had this amazing idea to put together like this as inclusive as possible like skate event, and like the ideas were just flowing. And then when reality kicked in, it just was so much more challenging than the stacking of ideas. Because if you want something legit where you could like trust that you're not going to get kicked out, you probably going to have to pay for a permit unless you own a space. You know what I mean? So like our initial idea was to like get this amazing place that's in a public area where people are passing by, and then there could be some exposure to people that's never skated before. And then I'd use that opportunity to maybe volunteer some of myself and my teaching ability with the rollerblades to like give some lessons. And then like it was like the ideas was great, but once we started trying to like lay it down, it was just like so expensive. And then you start to notice that some of the people that you're sharing your ideas with, they don't really know the mechanics that it's going to take, the legitimacy, like how to really go about it. You got to know what office to call if you want to get a permit somewhere, and you got to be like confident in what you're selling. You know what I mean? So what I then had an idea of is like it would be nice if like the skate communities, I mean like the industry could like set aside funding to help support the grassroots people so that we can achieve the goal of getting maybe some of these permits so that we can do that big event and not worry about getting kicked out. Because then that would be a bust if you bring like a whole truckload of skates, which we probably could pull off. But then what if you get kicked out? You know what I mean? So then we would have to just pack up and go down the block again. I think a great way to support that is if there was like a set of funds that was allotted to the side to be trusted into like the grassroots leaders in certain communities to like help bring some of these great ideas to fruition. You understand what I mean?
No, I mean, to be honest, that sounds like good business, anyways.
Yeah.
So not only are you including people, but now it's you set aside that funding. It's like a constant reinvestment into the future of the community and the sport, and it just seems like common sense on so many levels.
Yeah, because too often when me and my friends try to come up with events, it just starts with like whatever money we know we have in our pocket that we could like put up front, and then we try to see what we could do and how to build from there. But it's like that budget has a limit. You know what I mean? And then, like I said, reality sets in. So maybe if companies, they don't even got to promise it to anyone, but if they had it in their own minds, maybe they already do to set funding aside, as I said before, then maybe that could be like an impactful thing that could help with like diversifying and expanding what we're doing.
Yeah, that's absolutely right.
Thank you.
Do you want to?
Okay.
I was saying, I'm curious to hear about this topic as well. We're talking about like diversity in teams, and kind of I use teams loosely because it's not all companies have teams now, or families, whatever it may be called. But bringing all more diverse teams to the industry, because we had this discussion a couple of times in the past few episodes on Jump Street Podcast about like just ways to get other demographics involved in skating. And one of the ways to do that is to show that there are role models or people to look up to that you can relate to as well. It's not just like a 30-year-old male professional skater, which is what most professionals are these days. They're more females, more of the youth, more people from different backgrounds. So we're curious to open up this discussion too, to see how we can help grow those teams and diversity.
Yeah, sure. I think it'd be great to see more women on skate teams. I think it's great kind of where shops and wheel companies have been going. Like I know Kay is sponsored and has her own anti-rocker model, and Becky's riding for 50/50. I'm sure Martina is skating for someone again. And, Mary is killing it with Power Slide right now and USD. But there are so many talented women. I mean, out of South America, you have so many good women, and Japan and Korea. And I think, we can preach about maybe our industry within the States, but maybe we can take this and help mold a template for other countries to be more inclusive as well, or to give the opportunity for women or even talented youth. Like back in the day, Fallon and Katie Brown, they were like sponsored pro skaters at 14 or 15 or 13. Like, where's that again? But it would be great to see like more diverse presence as well, like women. And if we really are opening opportunity up to marginalized groups, like to Black skaters, to Native American skaters, to a foreigner in our country skater type of thing, just being more open to it and not just showing on someone's Instagram your typical, same person who falls underneath, a Caucasian middle-aged adult.
Yeah, I have a lot on this personally. I think I've done a lot of deep dives into the data and looked at like the number of skates that somebody's had versus like someone else, or how many skates have been in the last 6 years that haven't included someone from a marginalized group. Like how many skates has it been until, like, I've looked at those types of numbers, and data's never going to help your case. But I think what is most important is to understand that, like, what you promote is who you attract. What you put out there for people to see and engage with, the more people you can put out there that speak to the different the different organisms, the different humans that actually like engage in our sport, the more chance you have of attracting their. And so, I have like I lose focus on this because I have so much in my head around, like, just why don't we have teams that look like the people that ride. So I have been in charge of, for professional reasons. I'm a VP of a tech company, right? This is dope. It's amazing. I've never been given a job like this in my life. I'm the first Black VP of this company, right? This is a company that raises millions of dollars through Series A and Series B funding. Shout outs to Bitwise Industries. And like, I'm the first Black VP. I'm not the last because we've hired another. We actually speak what we say, which is that we want the organization to look like the cities that it's in. So like when I'm in charge of building a community of salespeople, software developers, security guards, a chef for our restaurant, like when I'm trying to understand what that looks like, I'm looking at my community and going, well, I know there's a bunch of Filipino people and my Hmong community, and it's not that I'm like I have a checklist, but I want to make sure that there's somebody in the building when let's just use Hmong for example. When someone from Hmong or Southeast Asia comes in, I want them to find someone right away that they go, hey, okay, because that allows you to breathe. You're not feeling like this the whole time. I'm lucky, right? I'm in a community very open in Bay Area, whatever. But I've been the only like Black skater for so long. Sometimes, like when Mike LaShore was here, it was he and I, and then we throw you add Vinny in the mix, and then Mike LaShore leaves, Vinny retires, it's just me again. Then Be Free moves. All right, I got Be Free. And then Phil comes, so now it's me, Be Free, and Phil. But now Be Free and Phil are gone, and I'm the only Black skater in JSF yet again somehow. Like you just feel it, regardless of how open and cool your crew is. You would just be like, hold up, how'd I become the only one again? Like, what just happened? And like things you would never know about me. Why I love Bobby Spazov so much is because he's the first Israeli with a pro skate. My wife's Israeli. Half my family is Israeli. I get to like send them videos of Bobby and be like, look, he goes to the skate park by your house. You could go meet him and send me a video. So you plug him so he knows that I exist. Right? Like I get excited to see the diversity, like all of it. And then like we'll get into inclusion, we'll get into sales, but like if you don't have somebody for me to identify with on your team, straight up off the top, I'm kind of like, well, are your clothes cool then? Like, or your wheels look better than someone? I gotta find some other reason to support you. Mm-hmm. But if you got somebody like Montre being the showman that he is, I'm more apt to be like, well, okay, what you talking about, Montre? Who I don't know nothing about no runts, but I guess I'll look it up, like.
Can I say something on top of that, Kennan? You talking about how, if you don't see yourself on a team or out there, I think that's so true. And Michaela put, if she wrote, if girls don't see themselves on these teams, the drive to pick it up and stay will dwindle. And that's a true statement. I've reached out to so many women throughout my years, given them skates, try to skate with them, lessons and whatnot. And yeah, they don't stay into skating. It's very rare when a female does. But then you look at roller skating and they have a phenomenal female following. And it's because they have female athletes in the spotlight 24/7. And that's something we definitely are missing, because you go on Instagram and you see like someone who has a female team rider who's a big company, and how many posts do they make about her? Not often, not like, So we need more of that. We need
You know what I
more.
noticed? Sorry about that.
Amen.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Preach.
But I want to build with where you left. Well, where I cut you off. I'm so sorry about that. But like, I wanted to share that to do like some research for this episode. I went online so I could try to, cause I don't really know who rides for who. And then like in my search, I noticed that like it's really hard even then to really see a legit like listing of who's on what. Besides rollerblade, they actually had a pretty extensive one. Not to like but they really did have like a lot of clarity in who's riding with them and where their roles. But the other companies, like I was just trying to get it together to know like how inclusive they are, and like couldn't find any like proper like representation on those sites. And it seems like most of like our awareness comes from like a lot of self promotion. Seems like rollerblading altogether in the industry has been based off the strength of people's ability to self promote. And it looks like I'm cutting out. I can't tell.
No, you look good.
Oh yeah, sorry. Oh yeah, so
No, but
I forgot the point I was trying to. Oh yeah, that's what I mean. It's like the representation. It wasn't really there. It's like people like force it out there. You know what I mean? Like I'm riding for this. I'm doing. It's like they're doing all the work. I don't know how much reward there is, but it seems like they're doing all the work.
You know, it seems like a different model nowadays for sure. But to Melissa's point, I was thinking about this topic when we were going through it earlier, before the episode, and I was thinking about the early days in skating, and I think because when it was like more in the mainstream, they did a way better job of including women, and you look back, one of the earliest pro skates was the Tasha Hodgson skate, like that's like in the Oxygen days, and you look at the early Rossies ads, and Dawn Everett was in there, and there were Cade Django and Neda Gain, and they did it. Angie Walton, they did a good job of you notice when it was more in the mainstream, the marketers were more aware that you had to kind of have these representations of each group, where I think maybe I'm not sure, somewhere along the way, even though it's important to be pushing the progress of the sport, somewhere along the way it just became super centric of like the most elitist, high level, I guess, type skating competitive aspect, which is important in its own right. But then we kind of, I think, ended up neglecting what we kind of were aware of earlier in like in the 90s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's that retraction I'm talking about, Billy. Once the money kind of dwindled, we went backwards. Like we shriveled. We didn't like right now. Shout outs to D.E.I. They are a Black-owned business. They make clothing in Detroit, and they featured me on Instagram most recently because I buy their gear. Right, I buy their masks. Straight up, I buy their masks. They reached out to me. They were like, "Yo, I wear their mask in my videos. Like, you know what I'm saying? I'm in the mask." They were like, "Yo, we want to do a story on you. What do you want to talk about?" I was like, "I want to talk about blading," and then particularly that like this moment right now, where we are sitting on the precipice of well, literally, the industry has seen 300 times financial gains, 3 times over financial gains, right? We're like where we were in 2004 or 2002, let's say, when Aaron was riding for Levi's and Solomon at the same time, right? Or Gap or whoever it was, right? At that moment, we were sitting rich and we retracted. We came back in on that, like just like you said, Bill. It's like if you're not the most elite, crazy pro, I might flow you some wheels, but I'm not going to promote that I flowed you wheels. I'm not going to put you in the spotlight like Jesus is mentioning. I'm not, you're going to have to go on Instagram and be like, "Yo, I got a new package. Check out my YouTube channel for the new package, the drop from." But like if I think about my Grom days, like if I don't know how many really Groms. Like Victor Arias is a Grom. Ben Lemon from Roll, Minnesota. That dude is the superest, dopest Grom I've ever seen. He knows everybody's switch. Like, I don't know how, but like, if you think of 50-50 frames to me, I think of 2, the yellow Julio and the Aqua Fab. Those are the 2 I think about. And then I go, okay, Rashard had the red one, and right, Demetrius had the yellow. Like, then I start to like go out into others. But that Aqua Fab, the reason why I know it is because she was on every DB ad. Mm-hmm. We saw that Fab pictures, her doing the rails. At one point, I remember just saying about it, like Fab was our biggest spokesperson She was on the Got Milk tour, going city to city, boosting on the vert with dudes on bikes, and I mean just like slaying them. Shout out to Jason Hines. You know, he was the MC of that tour, and like we were right there, but we're there again. And this is the moment. I said it in the D.E.I piece. This is the moment that we need to actually expand, not retract, not say I don't actually have a team, but I got people that ride for me. Hell does that mean? Mm-hmm. Right? Like literally, like I feel you, but like there was a moment when Razors, do you remember when Razors lineup was like, we got the pros in the Europe division, we got pros in America, we got a flow team here, we got people that just they had like everybody name. And you could see their whole lineup. You could find somebody, you could say that's my dude right there. I'm gonna ride with him until he becomes a pro, or I'm gonna ride with them until they make it big, right? We don't have that right now, and this is the moment. I'll say it a million times. It's about a positive show. This is about moving forward. This is about actionable items to then do this DEI thing right. Take Rollerblade's example and say, all right, this and some, and everyone else do it. Or else I ain't buying your stuff. Like that's where I'm at right now. So like the part about like, does it drive commerce? I'm waiting for that because I'm like, I'm not gonna buy your stuff.
No, that's a good point. I think when you look outside of our industry, you see that in the larger industries of like skateboarding, they do a really good job and are aware of those things. So that they all are pretty on top of that. So it just seems like to be smart in all ways, you know, and good in all ways. But
I just want to add to that real quick about with it. Does it drive commerce? But aside from that, before you drive commerce, you need to bring new skaters into the sport, new faces into the sport. And like I kind of touched on before, it's about creating role models and idols for people. And it's so much easier for somebody to relate to somebody, say you're a female, it's so easy to someone to relate to another female who's a pro and be like, oh, I could see myself as that person. It's way more inspirational, way more motivational than seeing someone that you can't relate to yourself as a person. So having, you know, females, like you said, in our sport as professionals with pro models, skates, frames, wheels, like Fabiola was, all those things are huge to bring new people into the sport, more diverse new people into the sport as well. So I just wanted to say that besides commerce and sales and like that, that's like the first step that needs to happen before we worry about sales.
Yeah, I agree, like, Austin. Like when I started skating, I was lucky enough to see like Fabiola and Martina, but like Martina was my idol. She just had the most like stylish everything, and I was like super tomboyish, so of course I wanted to mimic everything, like her tricks, her style. Like she just killed it, and that was like something I could relate to, like the music I was listening to, the style I wanted. Like that was Martina. And I was like new into skating, but I idolized Martina in that way. And so because we had like Martina, Fab, you know, Dawn Everett and everyone like that, it kept me probably driving in those early days before I started to really skate with other people. So I just wanted to add that real quick.
Yeah.
Who remembers the NIST days, National Inline Skate Series? This is like late 90s, early 2000s. Well, whenever they came to New York, I actually used to work with them, and like at the South Street Seaport. And one time I had to hold the measuring stick while Fabiola was catching huge airs. I couldn't tell how high she was going because I was standing right below the thing, but she was soaring up there. And I think she actually kind of had to tell me exactly where she wanted me to stand too, in a pretty firm way. But I was young and I had to do it correctly, so she gave me some good instruction. Mm-hmm. But who remembers NIST days? That was awesome. That was big, right? It was like
I placed 12th in one.
Actually, I got third place in one, but that was when there was only 5 competitors.
No, I placed 12th. I think Hakeem came in third. Dustin Latimer won that round, that specific stop, and I was just happy. I was just happy to like literally lace a trick. I was watching them half the time. I was just like, "What? Oh, it's my run? Oh, no!" And it was in Government Center, so it was on brick. Like, oh man, it was the worst. But yeah, I love this. That's another reason why we need to go back to grassroots. Most people don't remember the first Blade Cup, but I do. Nick Wood built a whole wall ride into the bed of his truck. Like it was like the truck was the foundation for the wall ride, and we were watching like half blast off it, and the whole thing like shake every time he'd hit it. Like that's where Blade Cup started. Like we know it now in its current form. Like it was as grassroots as it could get the first 3 years. And like if we're not supporting more grassroots spots like that, Windy City Riots, A-Town Stomps, right? If we're not supporting those, we don't have the NIST. So we don't have anything else. Like what are we then supporting in terms of competition style athletics, right? And then but yeah, I agree with you, Austin. It's representation first, commerce second, but I get militant. I like to put my money where my mouth is.
Of course, we all want to get to that point, but baby steps first.
Yeah, but I think sorry.
Go on.
All right, so I think on Kennan, on your point is, I think that maybe like some of the people who are currently blading now should invest a little bit more, and then like and then with that we'll help get other people to help invest as well.
I was going to say, bouncing off of Kennan's last point, I think it would also be I'm just the segue guy today, but I think it would be a good way to segue into the next topic of inclusion over diversity that Kennan was bringing forth. Kennan, would you like to lead the way on that?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just define it first. Is like we often talk about equity first. I think that was the first concept that came across in the mass world. We saw the 3 kids behind the fence, and how do we get all kids to see over the fence to see the baseball game? We understood that first. We understood equity, that this world is not equitable. We have to actually make strides to give people access to the same things. And then that became like diversity. And I love diversity, but diversity to me is a Benetton ad. Like it's like, do we hit the check marks? Yeah. Okay, cool. We hit the diversity piece. Now what? So like I work in the tech industry, and the tech industry is notorious for having a horrible diversity, like overall numbers and campaign. Where they see increases though, they like to like celebrate it. Be like, yo, we got like 6% Black people now. And then you dig deeper and you go, well, where? Okay, they're in recruiting and in HR and in inside sales, but how many of them are software developers or senior engineers? Oh, actually none. You're like, well, those are the jobs that like propel people to millions, right? Okay, so you're not actually diverse in any of the places where it's gonna like change lives. Okay, that's when we start to talk about inclusivity. Because we're here and we're talking about diversity first, equity, but inclusivity is that everyone has the opportunity to speak into their community, right? Like I can't tell you how many times I've been silenced from saying anything racially motivated or centered around Blackness because it's like, not here. This is a safe space, Ken. You can't talk about that. Or we're all sympathizers. Why would you tell me about your experience? I'm like, because you don't live it. I'm currently living my experience. I don't know your experience. I expect you to tell me about your experience, or else I'm guessing, and I don't like to do that. So inclusivity says that we all actually have a voice, and that voice is heard and accounted for. So that includes, queer folks, right? That's going to include low income folks, right? That's going to include all the marginalized groups that we don't hear from. Like, sorry, I'm going to just take a moment because it actually pains me to know how many queer skaters we have that live in the closet in our community. If you haven't seen the Tim Adams piece on Wheel Scene, go watch that after this, please. And then watch Blading on the Brain. But go watch that after this, please. Because to hear a firsthand account, it's not the community that I stand for. And I think that's the biggest part for me is I say inclusivity over diversity because I stand for all voices being equally heard at the table. I stand for we accept you. We accept you for who you are. And if you say some crazy stuff, I might check you on it if I think it's crazy outlandish, but we're going to have a discussion. We're going to figure out each other's viewpoint before I just dismiss you. And so I think we're so dismissive and we don't listen. And that's the next step is we need to start listening. And I I'm gonna stop because I will cry if I start thinking about my LGBTQI plus like that community. Like it's just like I grew up in New York in the 80s, man. I grew up when the AIDS epidemic hit. I know my privilege is that I can see people for who they are, and that coming out of the closet is a right. And I just kind of take it for granted sometimes for people because I'm like, cool, let's keep moving. And they're like, no, that's big. And I'm like, you're right. Let me slow down and accept the fact that that is big. I have this privilege of being an open-minded person, but so many closed minds are just closing people out. And it's like,
Well, I like to add to that. There's actually someone recently from New York. I'm not going to say any names, but they came out recently, and when they came out, it seemed like they were really trying to like force it on everyone, though. Like in a way where like I want you to like still act certain ways. Like it got really weird to the point where they wanted you to be so accepting, where they could be like reckless around you, to like really like in offensive ways, in physical ways, in ways where like you're like it's okay, we already accepted you. Now you're going way too far. You know what I mean? So I think there's like a balance to it. Like we can be accepting, but then if we are accepting, don't try to come and change me now. You know what I mean? And I don't have anything against anyone. I love all my peoples, but when you start really trying to like come at someone that already told you, like, listen, like then it gets weird. And I'm not gonna say any names, but someone is going through an episode.
I think respect is generally should be afforded in all to all people, right? That's a good place to start. But yeah, that by the way, I'll back you up on that. The that Tim Adams wheel scene episode was really good, so check that out. Huge shout out Tim Adams, great guy. But yeah, do you have Melissa? Do you have anything to add to that?
Kennan's pretty spot on. I do want to say, like, being inclusive and diverse isn't always just the human aspect. It is, you know, making skates that fit accessible. Because I have the hardest time finding skates because I have smaller feet. So, you know, we need to focus on the people because that is, you know, what makes skating. But we can also try to be better with making products that fit people or are more diverse. That's why I love supporting so many of these new female-owned brands because they bring a lot more femininity to our like fashion in a way. And not all women are tomboyish. I mean, I totally love black though. Like I'll skate in black all the time. But now I'm like, oh yeah, heck yeah, crop tops, heck yeah, cozy things, yeah, like colorful things, awesome. And that, unfortunately, it's getting a little more attention now in rollerblading. But before, you know, when everything was just a black, a white, or a blue T-shirt. So I think being diverse in I guess your rollerblade culture is also important as well. Because people identify with, you know, and are building self-esteem with what they wear and what they feel comfortable in as well.
That's an aspect I wouldn't have thought of before. That's a good point bringing that up, Mel.
Yeah, and I think the only way you find that out is to listen, right? Like all of us would have sat in the dark on that had we not heard it directly from Mel just now. So
yeah,
that's the joy of inclusivity is that we're all here willing and happy to listen so that we can then spread the awareness and be like, yo, that made a ton of sense. I don't know why I wasn't thinking of that. And you know, shout outs to all those who make T-shirts that are in women's cuts. Like that is a huge difference. Like you can't just make one cut T-shirt, you know. So
yeah, my favorite brand back in the day was Yukon because they had an entire women's clothing line, and I bought probably everything from Yukon.
Their whole clothing line was bomb, though. I tried to buy all their shit. You know?
So
it's like that perfect European touch.
Yeah, that might be another like outside aspect of the blade fashion. Not only do we got too many of the fellas doing it, but it's like not fashion keen people. So we need some help in different areas there. But the Yukon did have that European touch. They knew.
Before, like Kennan, like you said, like we wouldn't have known that unless like Melissa brought that up. I also want to say that we're live right now. We have a bunch of people in the chat. I see there's a lot of active people. Michaela is very active. Angie right now is very active. So anybody has anything to say, talk about it in the chat. We're all here to talk about this together. So let's keep an open mind about everything and share these ideas, because this is the best way for us to create this awareness, is just to keep it open and keep this discussion going. So if you're watching right now live, thank you very much. And don't feel the need to be quiet in the chat. Speak your mind.
And we are at the end gonna, as always, open it up for questions. We encourage everyone to put forth their questions. And yeah, all right, cool.
I went to a skate competition yesterday. It was good.
Did you race that top slope 270 alley-oop? That was clean.
Yeah, thanks. Actually, Angie was there. It was nice to see her for a bit.
Oh, man, I didn't go now. I didn't know Angie was going to be there. I love to see Angie.
It was a good time, though. She kind of cut out while saying goodbye, though.
I would have gone. I have 2 broken ribs currently now, though, so I couldn't. I was like, I can't really do too much.
Wow. So that is true? They are broken?
Yeah, that's not the point of the thing, but yeah.
And sorry. I just remember you mentioned it one time, and I just imagined that that's so painful, and I'm sorry to hear it.
Yeah, no, it's all good. But yeah, I would have loved to have been there yesterday, too, and hang out with everybody. But continuing, Billy.
Yeah. Sorry. So I think we touched on our next point a bit, but perhaps we can touch on it again. Does diversity drive commerce? Would you be more likely to buy skates from a brand with diverse team riders who represent a range of different identities? Where are we slacking? What can we do better? I believe we touched on this a little bit, but perhaps we can briefly touch on it again.
I think it's one of those great segue questions. I know you love the segue, but I think it's one of those great segue questions into what you're talking about, Jesus, on like the future, right? Like, does it drive sales if we put skates in people's hands, right? Does it drive sales if we have people that look like everyone included and given media spotlight? Does it drive sales to make a mention of, an historic event that has to do with minoritized people, marginalized people? Does it drive sales to put on your Instagram feed something a powerful statement maybe? Like I put that out there because for me, it's 100%. We were, I just throw my own personal experience outside of rollerblading, because I think sometimes it helps, right, to spin the narrative wider. I didn't know how to eat healthy until Whole Foods showed up, like legit. Until my wife and Whole Foods came together and taught me how to eat healthy, I was eating like a 13-year-old boy still, And so Whole Foods came into my life. Eat healthier. I know lots of different vegetables, things. I can identify vegetables that grow in the wild. Like, I got stuff now. But in the middle of shelter in place, the dumb CEO, and I'll say dumb CEO, comes out and says that if people don't eat healthy, it's their own fault. As though economics, socioeconomics, food deserts, and access to healthy food has nothing to do with it, let alone pre-existing conditions. In that moment, I was like, wow, bro, you're hella dumb, and I'm never going to shop with you again. And I'm proud to say that I got Good Eggs boxes right here that prove that the rest of my deliveries since have come from other sources, locally and locally sourced foods, because I'm not messing with that dude no more. I like to put my money where my values are. I like to align my purchases with things that I care about and causes that I care about. And so I had the question of like, is there power in the consumer in this moment? Can the consumer exercise their power to not like force the issue of diversity, but accentuate the need for it, right? Or highlight the moments when it is successful. You think about the Sakura wheel that just sold out by Dead. Shout outs to Dead Wheels. I actually think they're doing a lot right now. They have more in the works. I talked to AJ. They have more in the works to celebrate people of different ethnicities and really support movements that are happening currently, right? So like that wheel sold out. It's a beautiful bento box though. Like obviously everyone wanted the Daiso bento box. No, they wanted to support something. They got a dope product and they wanted to support something. I think diversity, inclusivity and equity all will drive greater sales. I can't believe that quads have not sold more this year than ever in their lives, because I see them everywhere. Like, quads are everywhere. And to Mel's point, you go on any feed that has to do with roller skating or quad skating or girl skating, and the dips everywhere. Everybody dipping, everybody dancing. I saw J-Bot and, shout out to Skate Atlanta. J-Bot and Williams on some quads dancing. I'm like, they're doing flips and 720s on quads. Like, yes, let's go. They represent everybody. Like, they really do. They do a better job.
There's that one guy hitting big kink rails with the quads. You seen that guy? I forgot his name, but he got really good style too, man. He's making it look awesome. I want to get it. That's crazy. When I get his name, I'm gonna send it in so you guys could look him up.
But how do you? I agree with what you're saying with the purchasing power, and I do remember the guy from Whole Foods when he said that, and that shocked me, especially since his food it's a privilege. When I was able to go to Whole Foods, I was like, man, that's expensive,
Yeah.
And obviously a ton of people around the world and in America do not have access to healthy food, and many people don't even have access to food in struggling socioeconomic areas. So, I agree. If you don't believe in something or see something that's, going in a way or representing what you want to be represented, why would you support that? So, yeah. I don't want to just segue away. I just want to leave it open for if anyone else wants to touch this.
Yeah. I was going to say something too. I was just saying that that's definitely something that blading companies should think about also, if you're trying to make a little bit of money in this industry that's starving right now. That's what the reason a lot of these companies go under. You can't make any money skating. It's tough, man. You got to kind of attend to these needs and think about your customers and what they want to support, what they want to buy. I know we use this as an example all the time, but John's doing a great thing with him supporting the community and giving back to so many people. It's easy for people to relate to that too. So I'm sure that's helping with sales a lot too, and other companies can learn from that as well.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. But I think it also speaks to the youth. So that's why it was a segue for me, because it speaks to the youth. Like, having accessible like $99 skates on Amazon, like that is a game changer. Like, having accessible entry level skates, having skates with a brake that's removable. Like, these are the nuances that we've learned over time help broaden our reach.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because inline skates can be inexpensive. You're right; it does make it accessible. Because unlike snowboarding, you need to get the whole geared up, where that may run you like over $1,000 just to hit the mountain for the first time. Unless you want to rent some stuff. But that is one thing that I do appreciate about rollerblading, how it is so accessible.
Yeah, it was like that. That was always a big thing in skating, because I remember just skates were even when they were $200 back in the day is a lot of money. Yeah. And, being able to have a setup for $100, be able to get out there and go skate, it's different. If you want to snowboard, we didn't think about snowboarding back in the day. What do you need? You need the money for all the gear. You need to get to a mountain, right? And they don't have them in Staten Island, right? So, but you know what I'm saying? And that's a huge important part. And to Melissa's point, just the sizes and the accessibility. So having that affordable accessibility, having the size that's going to accommodate the youth and all people. So I think that's a really good point. I want to jump into a point we were talking about before this all with Jesus about offering opportunities. As an industry, are people from around the world, from different socioeconomic backgrounds, receiving the same opportunities? Who are the gatekeepers? What can we do? What can we be doing better? I'm wondering if you had any thoughts you wanted to share on that, Jesus.
So let me clear up what I mean by gatekeepers. Gatekeepers are people in positions that open the door for other people to walk through. They help provide opportunity. You know what I mean? That's what I mean by gatekeepers. Now, when you think about the world, recently I watched that one documentary on Lagos, and that thing was touching, man. My wife and I actually felt an emotional reaction to it. Wow, it was that amazing. Mm-hmm. Now, the question is, like how do we get those guys some proper support? You know what I mean? So that they could, maybe some of those guys could be representatives of some of these companies. You know what I mean? In a way where they like like where it's not just a set of wheels, where it could like be somewhat life changing for them. You know what I mean? Like is that even possible? I know that if I wish that I was in a position to help nurture their skating over there through like finances or through like things and whatnot. And like I just like those guys are getting a lot of attention too. I hope people aren't just taking advantage of the exposure that they're getting and just throwing them a couple of sets of wheels without really like supporting them and giving them something to that goes beyond skating, something for their health, something for their mental stability, because who knows what they're dealing with in these different places of the world. You know what I mean? So that's what I mean by like how do these people like them or anyone anywhere, like how do you get opportunities? You know what I mean? How do we get eyes on them that's actually going to help support what they're doing? That's what I mean to say by that. And that's not only there. It could be anywhere. It could be like in urban neighborhoods, or it could be like in middle America. It could be like anywhere. Like how do we get eyes out there to like scout for these like to help diversify the industry, and how do we give opportunities to people that are deserving and need it, and it could be nurturing for them. You know what I mean? Empowering. Because rolling, it can be empowering.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think to add on, as always, right, we're building here, and something that I feel like is little known, and I'm gonna shout out Jeremy. I think it's Baytall. I always butcher his last name, but shout out to Jeremy from Caspa. He put in my head something that I had thought about but never really been able to actualize. You know what I'm saying? You think about these things. You go, how can I give something that allows for growth? And I think that's what you're saying, right? I want to plant a seed with you, but I want you to have what you need to grow that plant in your community. And he was like, well, what we're going to do, and I don't know if he's enacted it yet, so I don't want to do no spoilers, but he was going to allow for a group of people to be able to create their own goods to sell, right? As a way of being like, almost like an angel funder, right? So I took that myself and I was like, oh snap, that's a way doper way than just saying I'm gonna buy like 8 sets of wheels and send them to you, right? Because now I can say you can provide for yourself. So at the time it was Black History Month, and I was doing a promotion through my channel and through my store on Teespring for the Welch crew in Ghana. They are like this. I learned about them thanks to Winter Clash, because Winter Clash had like its list of partners, and they were one of the partners. And I was like, ooh, I never hear about Ghanaian skating. I've heard about Nigerian skating, but I don't hear about Ghanaian skating. Let me look them up. And I looked them up, and it's just like beautiful community where they're using recycled skates and creating like a space in the city to be able to skate, dance, do jumps. But they play this thing called rollerball. And I was like, what is rollerball, right? Like, this sounds crazy. So I look it up. I watch like they had like a post showing like them playing, and it's like a mix of basketball and soccer on roller skates. And like dudes are ripped. Like I would not go toe to toe with the Welts rollerball team, because after the day they show like them like all done and sweaty and winning, and I was like, dang, fellas, y'all making me look hell. Oh, I need to hit the gym, right? But what I did was I took all the proceeds from every sale I had for like the month, and I was like, how much will this buy you in jerseys? Because they were having a rollerball tournament. He's like, this amount will get me 2 sets of jerseys. I was like, cool. How can I double it and you can sell the other 2 sets? That way you can buy more jerseys to sell more jerseys, so you can become sustainable as a group. And all I did was just basically double my donation personally. Like I took all the money that I raised from the shop, which wasn't a lot, like $180, right? It wasn't a lot. And I just added my own 180, and they were able to get enough jerseys to have 2 for tournament and 2 sets for sale. And like that's $360. Mm-hmm. It doesn't seem like a lot, but it made a huge difference for them. And I think that's that idea of the future of the sport that I think you're getting to, is like, how do we provide for like even sometimes small scale donations create large scale opportunities and ripple effects.
That's a good point. I like the idea, like to what Jesus was saying earlier too, just like having that little bit of bit in the budget for funding for these things. It just makes sense to do that. Like have that area, basic reinvestment into the future of the game. So yeah.
I'll add on to Jesus's earlier statement when you're talking about empowering people. I know because I've been to a few different countries, like and the whole women's aspect all over the world is different. But I think too, because we're here in the States, it can be hard to really speak on behalf of other riders in different countries. But I think if we can find this beautiful balance in empowering those other riders in these different countries who are essentially trying to do or believe in what we're talking about here today, because maybe we can't financially fund something, but we can motivate them, empower them to do these conversations or to make these actions in their countries and their cities. Because, and like I said, like being a leader, rollerblade kind of taking this step and being a leader in conversations like this and to move the industry forward. But I think that's important. Like if we meet someone and we have a conversation online, like we should continue to encourage them, empower them, give whatever resources we can. But, you know, we can't necessarily physically help them sometimes. So if we work together and give each other tools, I think that's a very strong connection we can have with each other as well. And because we're not trying to step on all over the industry in America, you know, we don't want to rule the skate world. So I think if we partner with other companies abroad and everywhere else within their country and give them the respect and platform for themselves, like I think that's going to be such a huge part in the industry as a whole.
Yeah, so much has happened for the Shinobi group. Once given a platform and given the viewership, right? Once people start tuning in, you see that effect, that growth, that impact grow. I agree with you, Melissa.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, I've just been following this really good blader from Iran. I forgot his name. It starts with an S, pretty hard to pronounce, but he seems to be the only blader from there. And this guy's amazing. Mm-hmm. It's just, I'm happy to see him doing it. Yeah. Especially being the only one that I get to see doing it from where he's from. Mm-hmm. It's really cool.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. I don't know the name too offhand, but he reached out saying, like, how can I be known? How can I get like my videos on Instagram and stuff to blow up more? And I watched his stuff and it was really good. He's an amazing skater, because especially like not even like, it doesn't matter where you are. Like he's in Iran, but it doesn't matter if he was in New York, he would still be an amazing skater. And I'm like, your stuff is good, your content is great. Just keep doing your thing and people are gonna recognize you, because I could tell the growth in his videos too and posts from like a few months ago to last week, how it was growing. And I'm like, you're on the right path, but when you compare yourself to like, if you're gonna compare yourself like Nick Lomax, like Montre or something like that, like that's, you're not really in the right space right away. You know, you got to grow to get there. And he was doing that. So I think places like that where you wouldn't expect skating to be, Iran, we're talking about Ghana and like Nigeria and stuff like that, is growing in all these little pockets of the world where you wouldn't have expected it a few years ago. And social media is definitely helping with that a lot. And all this connecting of people, you know, following hashtags that you like and you know, just supporting the right people, it's going a long way, much longer way than we all think.
I agree.
Wanted to bring up a couple of things before we got into a few different experiences, some actionable items, and then we're going to get into questions with our live audience in the chat. But once again, I just wanted to say thank you. Shout out to our sponsor, Rollerblade, for providing this platform for us to have this conversation. So what do you think about the future of the sport? How do we teach and engage the future of the sport from all different communities? And how do we do a better job. I think we've touched on this briefly, but I'm still trying to stick to the cohesiveness of the outline. How do we engage the less fortunate communities? This was like something Jesus put forward.
Well,
Jesus, you there?
I wanted to touch on the experience of being marginalized at the skate park real fast. One thing I
Okay, let's
noticed.
go.
There.
And like this is crazy because Harold Hunter is Ron Hunter's brother, and since Harold Hunter has passed, Ron Hunter has been holding up the foundation, and like they've been doing like a really big things, like really cool, awesome things, and most often it happens like in the Lower East Side. This was a few years back though. It was like right after like their main event that they had, like me and someone else was just skating by, and for no reason like this skateboarder decided to like make a big show and point at us and like call us out for being rollerbladers. And like I knew the Harold Hunter thing just popped off, and I knew that they were coming from there, and I also knew that Ron, my boy, who's a rollerblader, was organizing, making that whole thing. Excuse me, I was about to drop an S bomb, but made that whole thing happen. This guy doesn't know that, and he's out here like hating on me just because I got blades on. That's crazy. He don't know the inner workings of what he even got going on over there. But it sucked to like for no reason. It felt like racism. Like even before like you guys decided to have this conversation, I started identifying that as like some form of racism. It's like, why are you mad at me just because I rollerblade? You know what I mean? And then like I try not to be like that, like at skate parks. But then I notice sometimes they loosen up to you if they see that you actually like know how to use the skate park without getting in their way or something, or if you follow their wax rules. But one thing about that is like it may like if it's done correctly, like if it's not done, then it's dangerous for me. If I go fast and I try to grind on something and I get stuck, I'm gonna get smoked. You know what I mean? And it's like these guys don't even care about that. They don't even let you be yourself because they want to tell you that you can't do that. But I think there's a way to wax up a certain area where you're not going to interfere with what they want to do too, so that you can still have a good time. But then it's like hard to, I don't know. I just don't like how they just, and then they aggressively respond to you for waxing. It's like, wow, why are you coming at me? And then it's like I used to get aggressive towards that and be ready to like step up. But as I got older, I realized that that's not the best way to go about that, especially if you want to be successful in your life and you want to live. You don't know like if someone's going to bust you upside your head with a skateboard, which we've heard of at parks. And I'm not going to do any name drops, but when I heard of that situation a few years back, that actually hurt me like a lot. I was bothered by that situation. And it's like just over a minor thing. It's like they're trying to tell you, or not them, or they. It's just like sometimes people don't allow you to be yourself. They like create these barriers, and they don't even care to understand where you're coming from or care about your perspective. You know what I mean? That's how I felt about that. It's like you don't want me to wax because you're scared you're gonna hurt yourself, and if I don't get to wax it, then I don't get to have a good time here. I'm gonna end up hurting myself. You know what I mean? So like I just think that just came from like that old school feeling that exists here in America where sometimes skateboarders just be mad at rollerbladers. I don't know how true that still is, but I definitely dealt with years and years of that kind of stuff at skate parks.
Well, a lot of that mentality stems from, it was like the elitist surfers, locals only in Southern California. And then that skateboarding culture came off that where they were very, against people who literally weren't locals in their area. And so it's by nature just a very exclusive nature of that was formerly ingrained into that culture. I see them, to their credit, starting to make some changes. The atmosphere is beginning to change at the skate park these days. But that was, and I think that was a bit to speak to Rollerblade's mission statement, where I think we've all, as bladers, at these times experience those moments, and many people in their own experience have experienced that to an even further degree, because when take the skates off, it continues to be. So I actually appreciate you sharing that experience, and I think this would be a good, because have Kennan, have you ever had an experience where you felt like excluded, left out, unequal because of whether it be your identity or who you are and within skating or outside of skating? Any particular? I'm sure you obviously have, but yeah.
I mean, I grew up in New York in the '90s. I grew up when young black males started to become public enemy number one. I grew up in the era of asking people for the time, knowing they had a watch, but them not showing you the time because they were afraid you're going to steal their watch. But I also understand cultural racism and how middle class black families will look down on lower class black families, same as white families will do, Asian families will do. Like there's a lot there's a lot to unpack there. I mean, I think I'm part of a dope book club. I'll shout out my book club, the Aware Book Club. Check them out on Facebook. Wheels and Feels or Feels on Wheels, something of that nature. Bloom took one of them and we had the other. I don't know. But it's just a really open group that wants to talk about and unpack these similar experiences that we've all had. And I think one that we talked about in How to Be an Anti-Racist that speaks to everybody. And it's one that I've experienced. I'm sure everyone in this room has experienced and in the chat has experienced, is that when you have been in a situation where you have seen wrong being done to someone else, but you didn't feel empowered enough to step in and say something or do something in that moment or shut it down or call attention to it. And I think we've all been in that space where you're kind of like, you're excluded in your own bubble because you're like, oh my God, I want to do something. I don't know how. But in my lifetime, yeah, it's part of Black experience in America. I think that's why I gravitated to rollerblading in the first place. And most recently, I think this idea that we can't talk about race openly has left me even more excluded within the community of people, friends that I had. I think 2020 was my year of getting rid of friends, to be quite honest with you. If I can't be my authentic full self around you, I don't actually want to be around you anymore. Like I don't have that time. I don't have that filter anymore. I used to. I think my head injury kind of depleted that battery a little bit. And to your point, Jesus, the reason why I had that injury was because I was too upset or too scared to wax the obstacle. And so I was waxing my skates and I stuck and I flipped backwards. So like, you know what I mean? Like I say wax saves lives at this point now, but the truth of the matter is we all have shared experiences in that. And I want everyone to be able to show up feeling safe to express themselves, their whole selves, who they really truly are. And that hasn't happened for me in a lot of spaces. And I've had to leave. I've had to like, just be like, nah, I'm not engaging with y'all no more. And these are people that, you know, in some situations I've known for 15, almost 20 years. I'm just like, sorry, no mas.
Yeah, it's rough when that comes up where you want to try to talk to people into a point of reason, but sometimes it's at the point where you just got to let it be and hopefully come around on their own at some point. But
I just want to be able to have conversations like we're having right now. I think one of the best conversations I've had this year was with Chris Edwards, where we were just straight up open. I know Chris Edwards from 2 decades ago, not Chris Edwards today. So to be able to talk to Chris in an open space, and you know, he's a Republican voting person who has different viewpoints on a lot of topics than I do, and we just talked. The goal was not to find a common answer, but to find commonality in the fact that we are humans who think differently, and that's okay because we both love rollerblading, and so we can always go back to that, right? And I think that's where we really we'll get to next steps, but yes. Exclusion.
No. Honestly, watching that thing with Edwards with you is really cool, and that was one of the things I was like, oh, we need Kennan on here for sure. Because you don't have to agree on everything or see eye to eye on everything as long as there's that base level of respect and openness. So completely agree to your point there. Mm-hmm. Melissa, have you do you have any shared experience you could where you felt excluded, unequal, marginalized that you could share with us if you want to?
Yeah, sure. Most of it's probably like non-skating when it comes to race. I was adopted from South Korea when I was a baby. And so my entire family is Caucasian. So the entire time growing up, I'm like always being stared at because I'm like this Asian girl with this big white family, this big Irish white family. And I never even like thought about it twice because I grew up just knowing that was my family. But it wasn't until I was a little older and people were, when we could speak, people were like, why do you look so different? And I'm like, well, I was adopted, but like no kid my age understood what that meant. So trying to be like a little kid, explain what adoption means and why I look different, that was like super, I don't know, it was tiring. And then at one point, I think probably around my junior high or high school years, I just got so sick and tired of explaining adoption and why I look different that I would just tell people my mother like cheated on my father and I came out.
Whoa.
I know.
Wow.
That's like how much, and it wasn't their fault, it's just ignorance. But yeah, the entire time I was always like just stared at because I looked different from these people I was around. And then being a female, I remember I played soccer my entire life, and my parents put me in a boys soccer league. And I thought for the longest time it was because there were no women's soccer teams. And then I think when I was like 18 or 19, they're like, no, we did that so that you could be tough. But I remember like playing soccer, being the only female, and these boys would like purposely target me, like being the female on the team. Like we got to go like slide tackle her, or like we have to beat her. We have to be dominant, and it was like I was so young, I didn't even understand any of that, but it did teach me to be a very strong, independent person. So thankful for my parents for doing that. But just being a woman in constant male dominated sports, it makes you feel, very alone at times. And, but when you do find that support, it's almost like sometimes you have to, I think it was brought up, like you're doing something to compensate to try to be in with that crew at that point. So I would say like for a while I was trying to fit in with the crew I was skating with. But then as we got older, it was just like big brother, little sister vibe. And, so many of the skaters are like my family. And then when I met all the female skaters, like some of those ladies are my best friends and they're all over the world. None of them like live here in Arizona, but like I love that. I love that part about skating. But yeah, just being a female in male dominated sports, it can be rough and isolating. And I'm so lucky here in Arizona now. The skate scene, the blade scene, the roller skate scene, they're so open. And it took this long for things to be like that, but it is such a positive step. And I love supporting everyone out here, and our skate crews, like they're so supportive and inclusive of the roller skateboarders. Like we're lucky Arizona is actually like this really strong scene out here, and we're not perfect, and people are so open to being better humans and doing that. So I think, it's, if you want to come to Arizona, you're definitely going to probably feel welcomed, and it doesn't matter who you are. And if you aren't, and I know the skater guys, I will go up to them and I will scold them like a mother. And I'll be like, why are you hating? Like, no, that's not cool. But I think Arizona, we have a scene like that. Like most of us are all friends, and even those who are different, we're going to accept them. Like we have people of all colors here. It would be nice to include more of like our Black culture here, but a lot of them are like our roller skater dancers, and I love that. Like I can't wait for roller rinks to start opening so I could go to those disco and jam roller skate nights. But I think like, I don't know, like everything that's happened to me in the past, I don't let it bother me in the future or in the present. But it also just makes me like, I never want you know, especially a woman, to feel that way, to be marginalized, to, you know, not have someone they can like not talk to, especially if they're at a skate park. Like, I want them to feel warm and welcomed, because that is the community out here as a whole. But it is hard. It's a social skill not everyone is super strong in, reaching out to people. But if people like us are the ones taking that lead, then people will see that, and that vibe and energy is going to be contagious, and you're just going to build on that and make your community stronger.
I love that.
Those are such beautiful words. Wow.
Yeah. I love what you said. Yeah, everything about that was amazing too, and I could actually relate to the Arizona part of it, because I've been there a ton of times, and everyone in there is really supportive. Every time I've been there with people from all over the world, and everybody's always been supportive. And it reminds me of kind of what Kennan said in the top of the show. One of the first things you said out of your mouth, Kennan, was like to support skaters, you know, and that's what the main kind of message is. Like, no matter what you do, how you look, where you're from, if you have skates in your feet, that's something that we could all, like, a common ground for us to all to relate to. And that's just enough for you to walk over to somebody and say, hey, like, I'm Austin, I'm Melissa, I'm Kennan, I'm Jesus, you know, and be like, yo, let's skate together sometime, and welcome them into the sport and bring a smile to someone's face and help, you know, create a new friend for somebody too. That just, you know, it just stems from there.
Yeah, and I will say that, because I've worked in the social service field, and not everyone wants that approach, but we have to be patient and accepting of that. Like, we can be as friendly as we can, but that's like us morally. Like, if you want to be a very kind, open person, then that's all you can do. It doesn't mean someone else will receive you that way. And you shouldn't hate them for that. You just have to understand they're them, and they're different, and we just have to accept that. And over time, they might become comfortable, and in the end, they're going to be like, oh my God, like this group, this community, these friends of mine, that was the most important part of my life. Mm-hmm. So we have to be very open about that, and not be as judgmental when it comes to someone's attitude not rubbing the right way at first, you know, just like, okay, well, we tried, and just skate, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Nobody likes anybody being pushy, but just to open the door to somebody new, a new face, just let them know that it's out there. You have people out there to support you who are in the same shoes as you, in the same skates as you. And just putting the feel out there, I think, is a huge and important step that we should all take.
I gotta say, you know, as someone who grew up under a single mom with my sister in a house, just two women in the house before my stepfather rolled around, that story hit. We gotta take care of our do the right thing. I mean, I think we've all shared a bit of experience, but Jesus, am I missing on an experience you care to share about your personal?
Actually, I did start it off with one of my experiences. I mean, I have lots of skate experiences, but when it comes to like D.E.I, I think that was like one of the most prominent. I have other ones. Rollerblading is just awesome, man. Like, actually, I want to share this one anyway, if you don't mind. It'll only take maybe 3 minutes. So,
it's okay.
I went through homelessness, like a little bit after my mother died. My mother died when she was 40 years old, so she died young. I'm 36 now. I was 19 when she died, and I was living in the projects. I didn't know what to do. It was tough. You know what I mean? And like, so I had to move like my sisters in order for me to keep the apartment. Things got weird. Eventually, I ended up becoming homeless, like after my mother passed, because I wasn't able to stay on the lease, because I wasn't able to hold up my own weight at the time. During that time, throughout that time, and even before that time, and now after that time, I've always been a rollerblader. But like when my mother passed, it actually made me put a little bit more in myself into rollerblading, where I felt like I was really just like executing the stuff that I always knew I could do. And then now I just like that energy of just to do it. And like it happened. Like I was able to like get better at rollerblading. And what happened from there was I made some like cooler friends that took more of an interest in like me, which ultimately ended up saving me from like homelessness and put me in a better place than I've ever been in my life. Like my friend and his family took me in, like his parents are doctors, and they like paid for my education until I like completed my associate's degree, and that like put me back in a better place. And I'm very thankful from rollerblading and how I was able to meet that family because they are definitely not from my neighborhood. I grew up in the projects, pissy elevators, 14 stories. I did the math. There's 8 apartments on each floor. 8 times 14, that's over 100. There's over 100 families in some of these project buildings that you live in. So it's like rollerblading helped me get away from that. But then I ended up having to go back to that after because they took me as far as they can take me. And then like, I guess I kind of like took it for granted a little bit because I was still kind of young and I never had that experience. And then like I remember telling my friends, I'm never gonna go back to the projects. Guess where I ended up when they couldn't like continue like when they helped me reach the goal that we set and agreed on. I ended up having to go back to the projects, and that actually caused like a lot of like stress. And actually I went through depression for years and I was acting up doing all sorts of weird things, but throughout that time I always had like rollerblading. And then like one day when I started noticing, because I even though I was like depressed, I started doing weird things I shouldn't have done. I always still tried to be productive in certain ways, so I still taught kids how to rollerblade. And then like, but I was like selling myself short in that where I wasn't like really earning a lot. And then eventually, like one day, it just started like building and stacking until I realized like I don't need to be doing all this depressed nonsense that's not productive for my life anymore. And then that's when I like fully invested in teaching kids how to like inline skate, which opened more doors. And I took myself seriously. Then I ended up meeting my woman who became my wife. And I'm just very grateful for how rollerblading has been able to like be like a bonding agent to like help me like solidify my life. So I just wanted to share that.
First of all, thank you, all of you, for sharing everything and being open on this. I know this is quite a request to have you come on and talk about such personal experiences, but I think it's just amazing. So I want to thank you guys for that. We're going to get into questions in a bit, but first, let's talk about some actionable steps we can take. What is the trajectory? What is the overall goal? Let's talk about DEI steering community, creating pop-up events. Kennan, would you like to take the lead on this one?
Sure. I think it's all, it actually came from Jeremy at Rollerblade, this idea of taking a conversation, putting it to action, and then creating investments based on those actions. That is the standard business practice, to be quite honest. And I think we need to take that as our motivation. This is the time to be active. This is not the time for silence. This is the time to voice your opinion so that we can get the investments that we're looking for. I mentioned DEI steering committees because Rollerblade has a contract with the DEI company to help them as a larger brand really focus their whole organization around this. And I think when you look at certain teams, they have enough within their team to steer the aggressive, let's say, department, right? You look at Rosie's team, a big company, large corporation. Their aggressive team, I believe, has enough diversity that if they just ask them the questions, they ask their team the questions of where should we promote? How would you want to take over our Instagram? How about, give opportunities for those voices to bubble up? You will actually get you'll see the returns. You'll see how those diverse voices create a diverse product, which then in turn, I think business for a lot of the industry folks, which in turn is just going to increase your revenues. Because I think bottom line, we're talking revenues with large companies. It's like, how can I get at your bottom line and make sure that you see more money, but I also see my influence impacting the community in a positive direction.
Very good points right there.
Yeah, I like the idea of the actionable steps, because it's just, we can talk and we can make everyone aware, but then how are we gonna do stuff? So yeah, pop-up events. What about Melissa? Do you have any thoughts on actionable steps? What could be done in order to make a change?
I'll speak quickly about like actionable change with including women in the sport. Like, it'd be really awesome to see, a brand like Rollerblade, anything they sponsor, making sure that event gives the same opportunity for men and women. And if I think all companies should try to include youth a little more, because that's like the fun part is seeing the young guns out there like shredding, and all of us uplifting them and motivating them. So I'd like to see like a brand like Rollerblade, if they're going to sponsor a skate event or contest, like making sure everything they give is to, equal opportunity for men, women. And, Rollerblade sponsored several of my events, and they're so great with that. So I guess continuing that as well, like that would be great to see them do that. And then maybe like skate companies to try to celebrate the women in their sport by giving them an opportunity for sponsorship, even if it's ambassadorship. Like, give them an opportunity, let them shine, let them spread the love of rollerblading. And, they're probably going to work in their communities and go to the parks and spread the knowledge of it, or give them like, hey, like, you want to try my skates on, like, just like get more representation from the brands out there. Even if it's not through professional athletes, it's through ambassadors. And I know Rollerblade is one of the companies, I think K2, that have ambassadors like that, but maybe more, or hold them accountable for doing more and getting involved in communities more to help this mission statement of theirs spread throughout. But yeah, big thing. Like, us ladies, we want to see this equity at its best. We want to see equal prize money. We want people hosting contests to invite us, to let us know it's a safe place. Like, Powwow has always been one of my favorite events because of Bernal Heights support, Blake's support. And when we had Powwow last year, Michaela, she's like, I don't know if I should, and sorry, Michaela, if I get the story wrong, but, like, unsure of competing, being transgender. And it's like, no, girl, like, no, you're getting your butt out there. You're going to skate with us. Like, to me, it's no questions, but, in Michaela's shoes, she has to ponder those things. So if we as a whole, as these brands, want to take, steps, I think we need to have these safe spaces, but also invite people. Say, hey, we welcome BIPOC communities. We welcome LGBT communities. Maybe host a little skate event at Pride's. I'm gay, so it's like, it would be so dope to go to a Pride and skate a mini ramp and have a rollerblade booth there, and like get people just out there celebrating as well. Like, get them on some skates, have some fun. Like, it would be so cool to see brands or rollerblade be more involved with actual modern day community efforts. And I think it's possible. I mean, they do it on other levels. So I think that would be cool to see any brand do that, and to celebrate their skaters who are BIPOC or members of LGBTQ plus, and that alone, I would love to see that. And I think there's enough people who want that, and maybe we have to hold these brands accountable, or, be pessimistic and say, hey, like, I'm going to do this. Like, can we collab and work on something? But we'll see what happens. Like, I love supporting the female-owned brands out here, and they're doing such a wonderful job and keeping our foot in the door, which is so nice. Megan with the Bladies, Angie with Rollerbender. I love Angie. She's just like, she's killing it. And, she truly represents like skaters for who they are. And, all of us, I think we really celebrate just the human aspect of us being, in a sport that we all love.
I love that. And I agree. I think, just being more clear with that and inviting, because I think Powwow, when I was at the Powwow, at the one you were emceeing it, and everyone was, I thought that was such a good event for the ladies, the females, the ladies, and yeah, I just think that's everything could always be better, but I think that's at least a good. There was a I thought that was a great event for the women, but of course, like you said, it could always be better. We could always like be more clear in how we're doing things, but I like those steps and highlighting those things.
Yeah, I like that you made some real concrete asks in that, Melissa, and I think that's what we need to do as a community is have some real concrete asks and have some examples of other brands that are doing it. You can point to Powerslide and Ennui and all their brands and how they're supporting Mary. You can point to Caltic. You can point to Law and 50/50, and you can ask these other brands, these larger brands, to mimic those pieces. And you can almost put I love going back to this idea that diversity, equity, and inclusion can become a list because it's so obvious, right? You're like, you can put together an a la carte menu and be like, these are the things you should do. And we would like you to do these because they celebrate all of us, and like you put it to these companies and you say like ambassadors are what we want to see. We want to see, competitions that are open. We talked about non-binary competitions, like just based on pure scoring. Like, I'll pilot that. That sounds heck of fun. Let's really put the onus on these judges. I've been a judge. That would be really hard. But it's like, we have to be actionable, but we also have to have like that container that says, look, here, do these things. Support these organizations, or put your money in these pockets, or I want to see you, I think really building community in these spaces. And I think if we ask and we're persistent as a community and united, this is the real challenge. Can we get united around what these asks are so we can see the change and be that? I'll go back to, like you said, Austin. First thing I said is we can be the example. We could be the exemplar, y'all. Like we are all so passionate about our sport that it really, it's almost a no-brainer. It's like, duh, let's just listen to each other and try to be a bit better every day. A little bit better every day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're absolutely right. We can't be the example. We should be the example. And that's what, this episode's all about. I think we're learning a lot. Everyone's learning a lot here right now. And like Billy said before, thank you all for being a part of this because this is huge for everybody. Jesus, I don't know if you had a chance to say what steps you think that we should take to put all these ideas into action.
Well, I think I'll take it back to that one, which I'm really committed to, is set up some funding that companies know that they'll be willing to invest into, like people who could help expand and like skating for everyone. I think that because that's what I need help with right now. If I want to make this all inclusive event, because like, what if you want to do something for kids, for ladies, and for just what if there's 3 different divisions? Then you need more than just one day, and you need a solid place to do it. So maybe with some funding, we can make these big, amazing events that are all inclusive happen. So that's one thing that I wish could happen, is some funds set aside for us to make these things happen.
That makes sense. Mm-hmm. Once again, thank you again to our partner Rollerblade with this DEI episode, and and thank you for our audience, everyone in the live chat engaging. We've been live for 2 hours and 15 minutes right now, and we would like to invite you to come. I know maybe some of our guests might have to use the bathroom. They might be getting hungry, but if you do, please let us know. Feel free to go. But I think we're going to begin to open it up for some interaction with the people in the live chat. So if you guys have any questions that you want to line up, that you have for any of our guests or ourselves as hosts. But Austin, do you have some
super
chat to go through?
I am loading it up now. I don't know why it's taking forever to go.
Okay. I mentioned the bathroom because I have to go, so I'm gonna I'm gonna be very quick. I'm sorry.
All right, go for it, Billy. Like we usually say, anybody who has questions right now, shout them out in the chat below. We'll get to as many as we can for our guests. We usually shout out our super chatters first, but for some reason YouTube is not showing me the super chatters as of this moment. So we have Let me see what we got right now for the questions. Also, I saw a lot of good questions earlier in the episode. If anybody has those questions, now would be the time to submit them because we can't really go back that far in the questions. There's been a lot of interactive comments right now. So anybody who did have a question earlier, try to copy and paste it or recite that question again. Hang on 1 second. Let me get a question lined up here. I don't know if any of our guests are following the comments sometimes. If anything stood out to them in the past comments that anybody wanted to address while I try to pull this up while I host the show at the same time.
Hang on a sec.
Yeah, but I'm just looking for questions now. For some reason, the super chats aren't loading. Let me try to scroll back up to get some of these super chats going. Because, okay, right here we have one. Thank you to David Tran for the super chat. Putting my money where my mouth is. Support DEI and skating in our community will support you back. Thank you so much, David, for that. Let me put that in the mail.
Dr. Dave. That's my homie right there.
Dr. Dave?
Yep, that's
We got a doctor in the house?
That's a doctor. Dr. Dave.
Oh, man. Look at our viewership is starting to level up. Look at us, high society.
Thank you to Shred City Skates also for the super chat, all the way from New Zealand. We also have Jake Ostran. Thank you for the super chat. Jack Ostran says, thanks for your time and ideas. I have to finish this later, but these conversations are worth more than a set of wheels right now. Thank you so much for the super chat there. We have a super chat from David Hudson. Thank you so much, David Hudson. Mr. Self-Destroy also. Question for Melly. What is the next step to keep female skaters engaged in our community, and what's the long-term goal? How can male skaters be better allies?
It's a good question. I do Roller United to try to just give an opportunity for women to come together for a fun contest or session. So I'll actually be hosting another one, and it's going to be here in Arizona, and it's going to be different from each event I do is always different. So, I've already reached out to some companies and skaters to come out for that. But, for female skaters, just keep doing what they do. And we just, as a whole, need to keep supporting them. And I think if you are in a position to ask your sponsors, where you can grow in the company, I think that's important to ask them. I mean, you have every right. If you're supposed to be selling their product and marketing for them, I think you can ask hey, I want to grow. I want potentially a product. What can we do to work together, and not be afraid to ask those questions, because I mean, in the end, do you really owe them anything? I think if you're a sponsored rider, they should be doing something for you. So, long-term goal, I don't know. I don't speak for everyone, but I think what women are doing with female brands is a really good step. Collabing with partners, bringing awareness to our industry. And then, I love finding out about contests and hitting them up and say, hey, do you want a sponsor? Or are you planning on having a women's division or things like that? And I think if other women can do that as well, then heck yeah, do that. We just had a contest in El Centro, and it was the most amazing, chill vibe. Shout out to Darren who hosted that. And it was just so chill. And he was all about equal prize for the women. And I tried to get as many women out there as I could, but 2 competed, and there were 2 or 3 other women there. And we just had a fun time. And so I think if we can keep supporting women, or if you know someone who skates, tell them about a contest or an event, and get that scene involved. And like support them in any way. And if you are timid to approach women, you can feel free to approach me and I'll approach the women. Like I'll be the advocate, you know. I love like hitting up people to see if they want to do like a contest or sponsoring them for one. So I think if the brands start backing up women more, you know, maybe we can see real change with the, you know, the professional athlete aspect of everything. But and for males, just be more open and accepting to how the world is changing around us, because you will meet people who identify with something that you've never heard of before. You're going to have people of color coming through because as this community opens up more and more, we're going to see more and more diversity, and that can be different, which leads to fear and being scared. And so just understand what the world is doing around us and be so supportive and open for that. So, and that doesn't, you know, it has nothing to do with women or men. It's just a people thing. Like we just need to be open and kind people.
I was going to double down on that. That's absolutely true. Everything you said is so, so true. We need to like disband this male toxicity that tells us that gay is a pejorative, that tells us that, you know, we have to act a certain aggressive way and that PTSD is wrong, or, you know, all these pieces that I hear sometimes come up in convo, and I'm just like, we need to dead that. That needs to go away from our general psyche, because the world is changing, and if we're not flexible and we're not adapting, then we're just a bunch of troglodyte cavemen pushing you know, old wheels, wood metal wheels around like from the 1920s. Like we got to be better than that. Men, all of us cis hetero men, we need to be better. This is from one cis hetero man to another. We need to be better.
I want to add one thing. So they say build it and they shall come. Maybe they won't come the first time. Don't give up on it. Keep trying. You know what I mean? Keep offering it. And give a heads up. Don't don't like pitch an event that you want everyone to show up to like a week before, because some people may have to travel to get there and they may want to get there. But with short notice they probably won't be able to get there. So that's something I'm trying to learn how to do.
Well said, everybody. Mel, I just want to say how awesome you are. And everything you've been saying tonight has been so good. And I appreciate that you're offering yourself as an advocate for female bladers. And like you said, if anyone needs anything, hit you up, and you know you'll do what you can to help. That's awesome. So I just had to say that on my behalf, by the way. I want to keep it moving with these super chats. We got more coming in. We had a super chat from Ryan Dark Magic. He said, just because. Thank you so much, Ryan. Another super chat from Rodrigo Lego, who says, tricks are important, but attitude is way more nowadays. Be cool. Well said, Rodrigo. And we just had another super chat coming in from Angie. Let me scroll down to this. Angie Bender. Big shout out, Angie Bender. First off, mad props to all of you Blade fam. Melissa, have you found it difficult to get respect in the industry in comparison to your male counterparts? If so, why?
Not necessarily to my face. If I hear a lot of disrespect, it's like just word of mouth gossip behind your back type of thing. But I don't know if it's because sometimes I put this like super bulldog attitude on or something like, but I've been involved with the skate industry for a while, and I've moved and lived in several places. So when I moved down to San Diego, I got like a really cool opportunity with Jeff Akers, with Sunshine and Razors and all that. And he was like super cool with like supporting me, supporting them. Like for instance, I got to test out the Jenna Downing liners before her skate release. I thought that was funny because you'd think Jenna would be like the one testing out those prototypes. But because I've had this like industry relationship with Jeff, like he's always been a supporter and given me opportunities. And so is Tom Heiser, like with my events and just living on the East Coast, skating out there on the East, and rollerblades given me opportunity. So it's almost like even if there was a hardship or something with respect, I wouldn't have cared because I always had a strong support system from the women in skating. And my passion was always about like just getting women hyped to go to contests and spending my own money to fly people out and sponsor them. And like I've been to contests all over the world, and it's so cool because I'm not like a great skater because of all my injuries, but I just love going to them and just putting my body out there so that other women can just see, like, women in numbers or something like that. Like, so yes and no. Like, I've worked with brands that have, disrespected women as a whole, and I no longer affiliate with them. So if there was disrespect, Angie, like, I would separate myself from that as well.
Awesome.
Great
Very well
answer.
said. Thank you, Angie, for the super chat and the question. We have another super chat from David Tran, who says, I keep hearing about, quote, the old days of rolling culture. What are some of these biases of culture that we need to get rid of, and what should we keep? So this isn't specified to any particular person on the show, so anybody who wants to jump in and answer one of those questions. I see Kennan's nodding his head like he has something to say. Do you want to jump in there, Kennan?
Sure. I mean, I've been in this culture for 30 years.
I was about to say, Kennan's from the old days. Can we keep him?
Yeah.
I'm
You
just
can't get
kidding.
rid of me. I tried to get rid of myself. You can't get rid of me.
You didn't try. It just almost happened.
It just almost happened. I try every time, but I think the old school is that acceptance, right? We were counterculture from the beginning. We are still counterculture. Like, it's we still are not cool, y'all. Like, let's stop being so dang cool all the time and pretending like we're not cool. We're a bunch of rollerbladers. Like, the most of the world thought we died, and we don't exist anymore. Like, we stop putting on airs. Early on, we didn't have no airs. If you showed up in bones, like knee pads, no one cared. If you had like wrist guards up to your elbows, it was because you just didn't want to die. And like, so like, let's stop putting on airs. Let's stop being so cool. That we can get rid of. Like, we are actually cool because we do something really dope. Like, that's enough. But I think what we have put in is, once again, that retraction is we just went backwards and we came in and we said, we're so insular now, and only these things are cool, and only these people are cool, and that we need to get rid of. We need to just accept that we are, inline skaters, if that's what we have to call it, or rollerbladers, if that's what we have to call it, or just skaters or rollers, right? Like, we just have to get open again, back to that OG value. That was part of the culture that brought me in. And the insular nature is what will eventually like make me go out and be some satellite rollerblader who just doesn't talk to nobody and makes like angry curmudgeon videos about how I hate everyone. Like, don't do that, because I'll do that. I'm from New York. It's easy.
Did anyone else want to add to that, Melissa or Jesus?
Kennan did great.
Perfect.
I think so too.
They both agree.
He's got like 10 years on me.
I like Melissa. It's like literally.
I mean, he's got to have at least 20 or 30 years on all of us. He's old.
Yeah.
How old are you, Kennan? I'm just kidding.
I always look up to Julio and Craig Parsons. They're like a year. Julio's a year older than me, and Craig Parsons is 2 years older than me. And I'm like, all right, as long as y'all are still skating, I'm not the oldest person in the game, so that's fine.
I'm just kidding, man. If I drop a spoon on the kitchen floor, it takes me a little bit longer to get it these days. So
Yeah, you started throwing 360 stars way too early, bro. You should have waited, man.
Everything was early in New York. But let's get into some of these. First of all, everyone, thank you for your super chats. We got to figure out something cool to do with that. And let's get into some of these other questions here. Jesse Provler, I hope I'm saying your name right, says, Jesus, I know you've worked with the Skate IA programs for schools in the New York boroughs. How have these programs been since COVID? Any plans of your own to expand off of those programs?
All right. So when it comes to this, actually, schools were closed for a long time or going through trying to get it together, meaning like how many kids is safe to be in a class. Like, so that is just starting to, like, people are just starting to get comfortable with being in like classrooms and stuff. And just yesterday, I got a text stating that a program is starting up next week and they want me to go back for like 5 days a week, which I'm excited to hear about. And it's going to be fewer kids because before we were hosting about, well, we were instructing about 100 kids like every day, like at like 30 kids an hour. And like some of these kids are like in second grade, and you got to like get hands on to help make sure their skates are just secure enough. So there's been some adjustments made. We're only going to be allowed to work with, I think, about 15 kids at a time instead of 30, and it's going to be in an outdoor space. That's why they waited until springtime. We're going to follow all the rules. We're going to wear a mask, safety gear, of course. And I'm excited that this opportunity is coming back around because I was feeling as if I was like you know how they say if you don't use it, you lose it, right? And like that's saying that I would lose it. I got over 10 years of experience, but I like to do it. I like to teach kids like how to play. So I'm excited that we are going to get back in the building and we're going to be as cautious as, or next to the building, be as cautious as possible. And they are starting to kick off again. But there was someone doing some stuff online, and I wish I had a chance to observe that because I'm very curious. How do you facilitate like an awesome skate program online? And I was trying to come up with some ideas for it, but I've been so busy in my own life where I wasn't able to invest as much time that was required in order to make a successful program. So it is opening up again, slowly but surely.
All right. Thank you very much for your question, Jesse. Sorry. I was going to try to say his last name again, but I was like, let me not try Jesse. We have another question from 111, 6 ones. Elitism has been a big problem in our sport. How do you think we can put an end to it? I guess anyone on the panel who wants to take it, feel free.
Well, well, what does that mean? Does that mean like trying to be like the best that you see it and like keeping that as the standard? Like, what do they mean by that? What do you think?
Well, when I think of elitism, I think, maybe how skateboarding has treated blading for a while in other cultures, like better than, I think that there might.
Oh, I get it. So it's
I don't
like,
know, like, do you see
someone
that
thinks
happening internally?
all right, so
Yeah, like
I
elitism.
mean,
Yeah.
sometimes people don't seem so welcoming, or like if someone, well, all right, let me say where I'm coming from, because I actually like was very difficult to get along with for a long time. And I used to have to wait and see that someone was serious about their skating before I took an interest in like nurturing it. I wanted to be sure that they were serious first. So sorry, I kind of missed the point. You know, it is after my bedtime, not for nothing.
No, I'm sorry. I'm not going to keep you guys. I'm not going to keep you guys much longer.
I just kind of.
But yeah, do you guys see elitism as an issue in yeah?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Let me So it's like I think that's unfair to like not be welcoming just because you like I don't want to be like that anymore. If I see someone with skates, I'm gonna try to nurture it any way I can without even having to wait to see that they could do a soul grind. Because you know what? Maybe they can't do that just yet, and they could use a little bit of encouragement so that they could stay involved with it. So my perspective has changed only because I'm getting older, and I like my care for this for what we do is like really serious, and I want to be like I just realized like as I grew into it, like I am part of the community that can help nurture it and continue its growth. Like I didn't even realize, but that this is where I am right now. You know what I mean?
I think back to things like what we said before, having the underage 16 and under contest, the up and comings, bring back amateur and flow teams and promote those. You'll start to disband this idea that like we are a team of 5 people and they're the best 5 you've ever seen in your life, but more like we are a large community of skaters that includes all bands and levels and ages. I think also like let's start including all body shapes, please. Can we get some skaters that aren't just 28-inch waist out there promoting? Can we get some 7-footers? You know what I mean? Like, I think once you get out of this idea that like everybody's gotta be a certain and look a certain and do these tricks, we went backwards. We went backwards again. Like we went back to this idea that if you can't 540 kind grind, you're not good enough to be to get a wheel for free. Like what? What if you're like amazing and you're part of your community? Like you deserve to give a lot. Like, or who remembers when Parker won the 16 and under? Parker from LBC or from Too Easy when he won the 16 and under at Blake Cup. Like, imagine if we didn't have that division, what might have happened to him or not happened to him. He's one of like the newest influencers. So like, he got a wheel. Let's keep doing things like that.
Yeah, and that's also a good point. There's more ways to be a contributor. In some ways, sometimes even a greater contributor off the blades within the community, so that you could be an ambassador, you could be an influencer, all these other things. I like that. I like that approach. Moving on, because I know it's past Jesus's bedtime. I'm going to try to get you to bed. Got to take a few more questions. Erica Ruiz, shout out Erica. Hi everyone, thanks for making this podcast. What is needed for pro bladers, both male and female, to make a real decent living out of their passion? I think this steps out of the DEI topic and to a more complex, like a New York Times crossword puzzle type of answer. But go ahead. What do you guys think?
I think Lawrence. Let's look at Lawrence. Let's look at other companies that do profit sharing. I think you have Fruit Tech Hardware is coming out with a new model for how pros get paid or how you distribute funds. Look at Them Goods. Look at the Danny Beer. And companies that have progressive algorithms, please share them. Be a little more transparent with your progressive algorithm so other companies can follow suit. I think we're a little too secretive when we have a good thing.
Okay, good points.
That's a good point.
Did anyone else want to add to that? No. All right. Moving on. We have a couple of super chats that came in too.
Oh, do we? Okay.
Yeah, let me get to these super chats real quick. Quick shout out to Dandelion for the super chat. Thank you so much. We also have another super chat from Andrew Turner, who asks, how does the skate community / industry approach people with disabilities now? How does the community / industry also approach things like CTE, mental health, suicides that have affected the sport over the years? Kennan looks like he has something to say. Just basing that off of what you're doing.
Shout outs to Dandelion in real life. Check it out. That's the homie. Real positive vibes.
Arizona.
See, there we go, right? Real positive vibes all the way. And then we don't do enough yet again. I make episodes that talk about depression and they get the least views. So I stopped making them. Like, I'm not going to lie. Like, if you run a YouTube channel and you're like trying to get views and your videos that are about TBI and mental health get the least views, you end up making less of them. So like, let's actually start having these conversations. I am more than happy to host and Ask Me Anything. I deal with depression and mania after my TBI like hourly. So, I am more than happy. I don't think we have enough spaces where people can talk about mental health issues in the world, in the Black community especially, and like within rollerblading, we really don't. We shy away too quickly, way too quickly shy away from what a lot of we call invisible injuries. Like you don't see it, you don't know why that person's freaking out, but be patient with people and find out. We don't talk about it enough. I just think that's real talk.
Like I like to see like brands or even the smaller brands partner with local nonprofits and advocacy programs for mental health and behavioral health. Like working in profit sectors, you do have all of those resources, and just simply putting it out there on one Instagram post can just help. And just like bringing that awareness. And I think that is sort of up to the skaters in their individual states and the companies that come out of those states to put it out there if they care, and some people, like we have skaters in the health profession and psychology and all of that. So I know some of those people do offer, you know, a safe place for someone to talk to, and then they just have those deep conversations. I'm not sure if those people want to be known that they can help talk with someone who has anxiety or depression or suicidal thoughts, but there are skaters out there who have reached out in those ways. So I think brands could do something, partner with their local people and just put it out there for viewers to see.
And just as individuals, keep your eyes open. You see someone keeping to themselves. You see them at the skate park. You see someone talking a certain way. Ask them if they're doing okay, because that goes a long way, especially people going through those kind of issues.
Definitely.
Yeah, sometimes you don't know what they're going through, and then like they don't tell you what they're going through, and then one day, like you already know. Yeah, we got too many friends who done.
Oh.
Yeah,
we got too many friends who either committed suicide or did bad things to themselves to put themselves in terrible places, and like they never like you wouldn't have known. I didn't know. So I don't want to get into detail too much about certain things. But there's certain things that I had no idea, and then it just slaps you one day. So you just show love, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, keep your eye open.
I think jumping on the bandwagon for National Mental Health Awareness, which I see Doug Williams posted, like that can be super important too, because I know a lot of the roller skate brands always hashtag that on Instagram for mental health awareness. And just something simple like that could be a good step for, like, if we all got on that as well as rollerblading as a whole.
We're having some real honest talks, heartfelt talks. This is some real stuff.
Yeah,
Thank you, everyone, bearing with us. The Wax Toaster. Shout out to the Wax Toaster. Shout out to the Wax Toaster. Question for Melissa. Do you think there are skilled female skaters that are underappreciated compared to male counterparts?
Oh, yeah. Not necessarily in a derogatory way, but I think women are underrepresented. So, like, let's say, a professional skater who rides for a brand gets one post on Instagram from the brand, and maybe the 5 other male athletes get, 100 posts before and after her. So there's things like that. There's so many amazing female skaters out there. And I think people like Megan and Angie and, the other female ran social media accounts we try to do our best to expose and share this footage or pictures of these incredible female athletes. And that alone, I think that can help uplift the spirits of the women. And sometimes, like for me, that would be enough. I wouldn't need the male dominated side of the industry to show me that love when I have, someone else helping do that for me. So I think there is a lot to that statement, but us women, we're resilient. We're trying. We would just love to continue to have more and more support, of course. So, I think we just got to keep it up because we love our Blade fam. So
if you were at Powwow 10, you can name 5 female athletes that are better than you. So
at least. At least.
For sure.
At least 5.
At least.
That were better on the down box, that like gap to box. I'm good.
Yeah, I discovered, like, that was cool about that event. I discovered a few people who I didn't know at that event, specifically from the ladies event. So that was really cool. I think that's important because how else are you going to find out? So that's cool.
Yeah. I've met them all from traveling, so it's so cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because everyone's from all over the world. That was literally an international female skate event. It was awesome to see.
It's like a community within the community. Super dope.
It's crazy. I was like so nervous because we were all leaving, like pandemic leaving, right? We were all like, is Mary gonna get home? Like, there were all those questions, like as Powwow was ending. Oh my God. And then Joe just didn't leave, right? Joe stayed.
And then
Yeah.
Joe just never left. He just
stayed.
embraced it. Got a question from Triple O OG Excalibur. Doug Williams says, how does the panel think we can better communicate our ideas to brands to help bring inclusion to the sport? Shout out Doug Williams.
Shout out Doug. I think we're lucky to have Rollerblade right now as a partner in this conversation. I have heard them express their openness to hearing what bubbles up from this conversation. And I'm excited to report back to them what has come up so that we can see how far we can take a real partnership with a brand that I feel like is at the forefront. We all can do more, and they are at the forefront. So I look forward to bringing this conversation back to someone in the industry who seems, very much like they want to become the standard, the gold standard for our diversity and inclusion requests. And so, you got my number. Holler at me. Let's get a list together. I said we gotta get that actionable items list together so that we can bring it forth to these companies and say, hey, this is a sprinkling, an a la carte menu of things you can do. That Mental Health Awareness Month is in March, so start programming in January. That Black History Month's in February, so start doing your programming in October. I can schedule that out for companies if that's what they really need. But I think those are the actionable items, and I think we're fortunate enough to have Rollerblade right now. I wish and I hope that after this conversation, we get to reach a lot of those other bigger brands like FRs and Power Slides and K2.
Yeah, I would love to see a brand open it up one day and have fan appreciation on Instagram where they would go live with a leader in the industry and open up a live chat for people to ask them questions. And I think that would be really cool. And just that way, everyone can feel like they have an opportunity to be heard. And if not, at least someone might see their question or their comment or opinion on a live chat type of thing. So that would be really cool to see from brands.
That's an easy way for inclusion right there too. Sorry, Jesus, go ahead.
I just wanted to add one thing. So I just noticed that sometimes these cool skate companies where you would love to observe their pros, they come and fly under the radar, go in your city, do their thing, get their clips, and get out before you even knew they were there. I can't believe that they don't see it as an opportunity to engage the community sometimes and actually let the fans see their stars. You know what I mean? Be present. If they're present, then they could have those interactions. You know what I mean? So that's just one thought I had on that.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
Well, we got one more question. It's from someone who's very active in the chat, but everyone should have their questions heard. So Jacob Zurawaski says, I hope I'm saying your name right. I'm sorry if I'm not. Does the panel make a distinction between DEI in the skate culture and in skate corporations? I feel like the culture I've experienced is very inclusive.
I've been getting texts about this gentleman's comments throughout the entire evening. Jacob, that's a great question. No, I don't feel like we have the open conversations that are necessary to make the big moves in DEI within our community. I think we are starting that right now, and we have been this year. And I think the more we have these conversations, the more everyone will share your sentiment and feel as welcomed and as included in the community as you do.
All right. Well, we do have one more question I think we'll take, and maybe we'll make this our last question. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
No? Okay, sorry. My computer's bugging out a little bit. We have one more question here. I think we'll take this before we wrap it up. Thank you guys again for your time. I know it's late, we're coming on, but thank you. Thank you. Rebel Skate 1 says, equity. Why don't pro skaters get paid a living wage? Why are pros working jobs doing deliveries and putting their necks on the line skating? And the industry people at the brands, make fat paychecks. This might be a little bit out of the DEI wheelhouse, but I figure we should ask each question put forth.
I don't know. I don't know why they offer skaters representation without contracts or without payment or without I don't know. I don't know. I remember when I did Monks.
Question for the brands.
Yeah, I'm like when I did Monks, the one thing we really wanted to do was open up a shop so that we could offer every skater in health insurance as an employee of the shop. That was like something that Dwayne and I were like dreaming of. That there you go. There's a pie in the sky opportunity for you.
What about like a skaters union? Where you just hold your ground and say, I'm not signing up with nobody unless, and then if you have enough people doing that nobody signs up, then they're gonna have to budge. I know it's not that big, but that's an idea.
No, I mean that's a good. I mean, that's how things change, unions, and getting together, and
it's been discussed before.
But yeah, I would love to see these things happen in the future.
Yeah.
But guys, we're coming. Everyone, all, thank you. We're coming up on 3 hours of what I came into wondering what it would be and leaving feeling really good and positive about this conversation. And I just want to thank each of our guests. I want to thank Kennan, Melissa, and Jesus for taking the time to sit here with us for 3 hours, opening up yourselves, allowing yourselves to be vulnerable and talk about these challenging topics that are not always met with open arms when we try to have these conversations in our industry. So I want to just say thank you guys again for that. And then that being said, I want to give you guys the opportunity. I'm going to give you all the opportunity to I'm sorry, I'm reading some of these chats. I want to give you the opportunity to say a final parting goodbye, or final thoughts.
Yes.
So I guess we could start it with perhaps we started with Kennan and with Melissa, and then Jesus. Maybe we'll start it with Jesus this time, and then we'll reverse it. So Jesus, do you have any parting thoughts?
All right. Well, thank you for letting me take part in this conversation. I was a bit nervous. I wasn't sure if I would have enough input that I thought was valuable, but I think organically, it came to be, and I feel good about what we discussed. And a couple of things that we're working on. My boy E-Money, we're gonna have an event for him in New York City on July 3rd. Almost a year ago he passed away. R.I.P. One of NYC's great friends, and you probably met him in other places too. And also the Bashi Pope comp coming up. I'm gonna help them with that. They need someone to help write up a script. Now I'm just gonna help them out. We're gonna help get all these things rolling. So that we got the E-Money event, we got the Bashi comp, and we're just trying to keep events happening so that we could continue to have good things to look forward to take part in. So that's my last piece. Thank you all so much. This was wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, Jesus. Melissa, any final thoughts from you or final words?
Yeah. Thanks again to you, Billy and Austin, and giving us this opportunity. I think it's such an important conversation, and I love that everyone involved on the chat is so positive and supportive, actually. So that was really cool to see. Shout out to everyone I've met in my travels and skating. I'm so passionate about skating because of the people I've met, especially the women I've met. I mean, you guys have been some of my best friends for over 15, 20 years now. So, and shout out to Arizona, always holding it down. Wax the Planet, Zony Girls, which is a new brand out there. So amazing. To Recreational Fear, who's tried to work with youth and everything like that. To Rollerblading, Magnetic. You guys are awesome. You're my Blade fam. And the ladies, shout out, props to you guys. You should all be proud of yourselves for holding it down. And let's continue this effort and this support.
Awesome.
Amazing.
Well said, Mel. Thank you so much for being a part of the show. Kennan,
thank you.
You are up. Any final thoughts?
I finally have a dog acting up. I've been absolved of this dog thing until right now. So I
feel like I'm the only person who hasn't had a dog bark in this episode. Unfortunately.
But yeah, once again, just thank you to you two. Thank you to Jump Street for having the courage to have a conversation that's awkward at best, but necessary at most. And shout outs to Ray for putting us on to this idea and getting me in the door with you guys, as well as Billy for you suggesting the long term homie. We all can do better. We know we can do better. And if we unify, we'll see results. We'll see the actions that are necessary to be the community that we all joined up for. I signed up for an inclusive, amazing place where I could be my creative, weird self on rollerblades. I think that's still really true. So I'm here for the long haul. I'm down for the conversations. Check your boy out. Holler at me if you want to talk mental health. I already got some people on IG hitting me up because I live it, and I'm more than happy to spread what I do, and maybe it helps someone else. So props to you both. I'm glad this is a positive, wonderful experience and episode.
Props to you too, Kennan. You taught me all my MC skills.
Here, this is when you really got to take it. We got to take it there. Since you said that, you got to have one of these ready to go at all times.
Yeah, you're the man.
You got the gold mic. That's awesome. But
guys, thank you so much again for taking the time out of your day. I would love to talk to you guys again in the future. Let's
do it again.
Thanks so much for joining us. And
thank you to Rollerblade too for sponsoring this episode. We got the cat. Thank you, Kennan. Thank you, Melissa. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, everybody in the chat for joining us in this. This is an awesome episode. Thank you. Special thanks to Rollerblade for sponsoring this episode and allowing us to do this in the first place. So everyone check out Rollerblade. And is that it? We're good to go, Billy? Anything else we missed?
See you for an episode on Wednesday.
Boom. It sounds good. Have a good night, everybody. Thank you all so much.
Bye.
Peace.